Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the restless world of the Templar Knights, where the first sound of morning is not gentle birdsong, but the slow breathing of armored brothers all around you, and the heavy air of stone walls that never truly sleep. You wake on a straw mattress, the prickling stalks pressing into your back through thin linen. The dormitory is cold, the night's damp clinging to the walls, every breath turning white in the half-dark. All around, men stir in uneasy rhythm, boots scraping, a muffled cough, a whispered prayer caught in the stillness. The rafters creak faintly overhead, and in the distance, before the bell is even struck, you sense movement, a door opened too quickly, footsteps urgent against stone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, leave a comment sharing where you're listening from, or which moment in history you'd most want to wake up in. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You rise, the blanket rough beneath your hands, straw whispering as you shift your weight. Your body aches with the memory of armor, though you are not yet wearing it. The air smells of damp wool, oiled leather, and smoke that seeped into the beams months ago and never left. Around you, men move faster than usual. Brother Guillaume already laces his mantle with trembling hands. Brother Etienne mutters, "They're calling us earlier," his voice hushed but sharp. The bell suddenly strikes, heavy, insistent, more rapid than the measured rhythm you know. Not the slow call to prayer, but a summons, a command. The sound thrums in your chest, rolling through the stone and into your bones. You freeze for a moment, listening to its urgency. Something has changed. Boots slam onto floorboards, benches scrape back. The air fills with rustle and clatter. The white mantles, still folded from yesterday, are thrown over shoulders with haste instead of ritual. Hands shake as belts are tightened, leather creaks under strain. You feel the weight of tension pressing down heavier than the cold. No words are given yet, but you know, the order has come. Beyond the chapel, beyond the courtyard, beyond the walls, something waits. A campaign, a summons to ride, perhaps even a siege. You pull your cloak tighter, the red cross stark against white, and follow the stream of brothers into the dark corridor, where torchlight flickers and shadows leap like warnings. The corridor breathes chill at your face. A novice fumbles with a lamp and nearly drops it. Hot wax spatters his wrist and he bites back a sound, shaking his hand as the sting climbs his arm. You touch his shoulder for the briefest moment, solidarity in a glance, then move on, the line of brothers flowing like a pale river toward the chapel. The door's iron handle is cold as an icicle, rough with hammer marks where some smith's temper outlived the heat. You push. Inside, the chapel smells of beeswax and damp lime wash, the scent like faint honey, threaded with the memory of rain. Candles gutter in their iron rings. One flame leans, then steadies, a small act of obedience to air. You kneel with the others, knees finding the polished dips left by men who knelt here before you. The chant rises, low, steady, braided from many throats, folding you into a sound that softens the edges of fear. A plain fact lives here without need of trumpet. The brothers keep the hours, and the rule binds prayer to daybreak, to the bell, to ordinary breath. Your fingers press against the wool of your mantle. The nap is rough, the seam where the cross meets the cloth raised like a ridge under your palm. Records suggest that the right to bear the red cross came mid-century by papal favour, and you feel its weight as if dyed into your skin. You had it stitched for you, not by your hand but by distant hands, and whenever you draw it close you smell a trace of soap, talc-like, that does not belong to your house. Whose? You will never know. The psalm closes. The silence after is as full as the chant before. You rise, the cold a knife at your ankles, and file out under a lintel nicked by sword tips over years of passing. In the passage a brother reads the short orders, voice measured, eyes steady. The words are simple: ready kits, ready mounts, ready hearts. The master, calm, square-shouldered, adds little, only a nod that closes any space left for doubt. You move to the dormitory again and dress for movement. The rule says you sleep clothed, and you do. Your tunic clings warm with body heat. Your chausses tug tight against calves. You lace your boots. The thong bites your fingers, stiff with dried oil. You slide on your belt, find your knife, small, plain, useful for bread and rope, and think of how some houses forbade personal finery, though letters hint that enforcement swelled and shrank like weather, different from preceptory to preceptory. You flex your hands. The joints crack like little twigs, the sound too loud in your ears. In the armory, the smell changes again. Iron, oil, the faint sour of old sweat living in mail. You lift your hauberk with both hands. The drape of links a cold river over your forearms. It settles with a sigh, weight distributed across shoulders and ribs. The coif whispers at your neck as you pull it close. A single broken ring grazes your cheek, and you make a note to mend it when the world lets you be quiet again. You draw a gambeson tight, feel its quilted pads like small patient hands holding you in place. A brother passes you a strap of boiled leather. It creaks as you cinch it. He says nothing, but his eyes search yours for a heartbeat, as if to borrow steadiness the way men borrow flint. You nod. The gesture is enough. A quirk of routine takes over. The same order every time: coif, hauberk, surcoat, belt, sword, gloves, helm. You sip from a wooden cup, watered wine, thin, a line of cool on your tongue. The rule waits the table, keeps meat to certain days and fasting to others. This morning you settle for bread crust pocketed last night, its surface faintly sweet where it rubbed against a scrap of dried fig. Outside, the sky is not yet blue, only the grey before, like wet ash laid smooth. You cross the yard to the stables. Horses stamp and toss their heads. Breath steams in soft plumes that fold and vanish. You run a brush through your destrier's mane, teeth clacking on the wooden comb when your grip slips, and the comb skids, clumsy against his withers. He does not spook. He knows your hands, your smell, the scrape of your boots. You check the girth, the stitching, the bit's cold bite. A boy blows on his fingers and offers you a nod, cheeks red, straw clinging to his hair. You hand him a half-gnawed crust. He grins without showing teeth and tucks it away like treasure. The bell speaks again. 3 strokes, spaced, the pattern you have been taught to obey. Is it always 3 in every house? Records suggest signals varied, that a man might ride from one commandery to another and have to relearn the very language of bells. You tighten the cinch another hole just in case the road jolts worse than memory allows. Around you the company thickens, white mantles blinking in torchlight, crosses a dark wine red against the dawn's pallor. You mount. Leather sighs. The saddle is still cold, but the horse is warm, a moving hearth under your thighs. The yard's gate yawns open, and the world beyond exhales a wind that smells of wet earth and smoke from distant kitchens. If you were home, if you had such a thing, there might be the hum of a stove, the warmed cup left by a generous hand. Here there is breath and leather and iron and the scrape of hooves on cobble. The contrast settles you, simplicity where modern softness would bloom. You take a deeper breath and find calm in the lack. A trumpet's raw note lifts, not triumphant, just functional, a dull blade to cut silence into action. The column snakes through the gate, past the chapel that still holds your kneeling heat in its stones, past the bakery where a sleepy lay brother punches dough with fists like mallets. You catch the smell of yeast, and it slides into your chest and sits there, odd comfort in a morning meant for marching. A black dog slips along the wall and vanishes under a wagon, tail low, eyes bright with the secret tasks of dogs. The road greets you with ruts half full of last night's rain. Hooves splash, droplets tick your mail and leave tiny cold stars that fade. Your sword rides easy at your hip, scabbard knocking a rhythm against your thigh. The man beside you hums, almost under breath, a line of chant that never quite resolves. He breaks it to say, softly, we ride light, perhaps only to show the flag. You answer with a non-committal sound that could be agreement, could be doubt. The master rides ahead, cloak pinned, helm hanging from his saddle like a steel moon. Fields unroll, stubbled, brown, ridged where plough and frost have quarrelled. A woman near a hedgerow lifts a water pail and pauses. Watching, a child grips her skirt, peeks, retreats, peeks again. You remember, unexpectedly, a time you were the one peeking, a boy at a boundary, told not to stare and unable to do anything else. The thought warms and stings, a coal rolled gently in cloth. You shift in the saddle, and the mare shifts under you, attuned. A light rain starts. Each drop a soft tap on your helm as you settle it down over the corf. Vision narrows to a slot. The world frames itself in iron. The lane narrows too. Hawthorn reaching in with thorned fingers. You duck, but one snag catches at your surcoat and rasps away. A thread dangles, stubborn, and you pinch it away with a glove that smells faintly of tallow and horse. The march finds its pace. Bell, breath, hoofbeat, until your body becomes the metronome and your mind loosens. Fatigue moves in, gentle at first, like a shawl. The road opens to a low rise, and from it you see the far line of dark, where a fortress might be, or might only be weather-piled against hills. Messages had come in the night, ink rushed, seal smudged, speaking of a garrison, of a lord, of an insult not forgotten, or so the messenger swore. Letters hint, certainty keeps its own counsel. You touch the cross on your breast, not for show, only to remember. The rule does not promise glory, only duty, poverty, chastity, obedience, and the long discipline of ordinary days interrupted by steel. You taste a ghost of last night's barley on your tongue, and wish absurdly for a handful of clean snow to chew, the way you once did on a winter road to mute your thirst. You glance left, right, take measure of faces you could draw with your eyes closed. Men who will help you tighten a strap, share the last dried fig, steady your shaking hand without ever speaking of the shake. The wind freshens. The column creaks. The bell behind the house is distant now, a memory of iron and duty, yet you hear it anyway, the way a sailor hears surf in his skull long after land. You sit straighter, adjust your helm and angle your horse toward the pale line of day. Whatever waits ahead you have begun. The morning is not ordinary, and neither are you, at least not today. The road begins before the sun is fully awake. Your horse's hooves strike sparks against cobbles slick with last night's rain, and the sound rolls into the damp air like drums muffled by cloth. Around you the column thickens, men riding 2 by 2, the white of mantles catching the pale grey of dawn. Each cross seems darker now, red stitched against wool, as if the colour itself has deepened with the weight of what lies ahead. The bell's echo is still in your ears. It hadn't rung for prayer. It hadn't rung for meals. It had rung for this. For readiness, for leaving, for the long road to an enemy's gate. Your body knows the difference, even if your mind tries to wrap itself in ritual. You ride because the order has been given, because your vow binds you to motion more strongly than desire ever could. The master leads. His cloak ripples behind him, helm swaying at his saddle. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The company moves as one body, bound not by blood but by oaths and silence. A trumpet had sounded once, flat and raw, and then the world shifted. The first stretch takes you past fields damp with dew. Stubbled stalks cut through mist, and crows rise, black wings flapping in startled arcs. A woman looks up from her pail, water sloshing, and freezes as the column passes. A child clutches her skirt and stares at the white and red of your cloaks. You keep your eyes forward, though for a heartbeat you wonder how you appear. Not men, but a tide of iron and wool, breath steaming in the air like smoke from a single fire. By mid-morning, the sun pushes weakly through the mist. Your back is stiff, mail shifting against your shoulders with each sway of the horse. The leather creaks. The sound repeats until it becomes the pulse of the day. You glance at your neighbour. He adjusts his gauntlet, then rubs his chin, muttering a prayer under his breath. He has said the same prayer so many times it has become a hum more than words. The road narrows, hawthorn hedges leaning inward, their branches clutching. You duck once as a thorn snags your surcoat and tears a line, leaving a dangling thread. You pull it loose with a grunt, thinking of how every garment wears thinner on campaign than at home. Letters hint that some houses issued new mantles each year, but in truth many knights wore theirs until ragged, the red cross dulled to brown by sun and rain. A boy runs alongside for a while, barefoot, hair wild, laughing as he keeps pace until the road steepens. Then he drops back, waving until the curve swallows him. You do not wave in return. You keep your hands tight on the reins. A knight does not break form, even for a child's grin. Yet the image lingers, warming your chest as the air turns colder. By noon you halt. The order is crisp. Dismount. Water the horses. Take bread. You lead your destrier to a trough where the surface ripples with each impatient snort. The smell of wet wood and horse sweat thickens. You dip a crust of bread in watered wine, softening it enough to chew. The taste is plain, but hunger makes it steadying. A brother nearby offers you half of a dried fig. You nod thanks. The sweetness bursts sharp in your mouth, a fleeting kindness in the iron routine. The master surveys the column. His face gives nothing away, but the murmur travels. A fortress lies ahead, held by men who refuse to yield. Records suggest this campaign was more about tribute than territory, yet in the saddle it matters little. You ride where told, you fight when ordered, you kneel when bells demand. Motives belong to kings and popes. For you there is only the next step, the next command, the next breath drawn under iron. The march resumes. Hills rise slowly, their slopes patched with olive groves and stone huts crouching low against the earth. The air smells of thyme crushed beneath hooves, a sweetness that catches in your throat. You shift in the saddle, sweat pooling under mail dripping along your spine. Heat builds, and your horse tosses its head, foam at the bit. By late afternoon the fortress comes into view. A dark bulk against the horizon, square towers stabbing upward, banners faint in the haze. You feel the change ripple through the column, back straightening, breaths tightening, the hush of anticipation. No one says the word siege, but the thought presses in with the weight of stone itself. At dusk you reach the camp. Tents bloom across the field, white and brown, their ropes taut against earth. Fires crackle, smoke curling skyward in twisting ribbons. You dismount, legs stiff, knees creaking as though older than your years. A lay brother takes your reins, leading your destrier to water and oats. You unclasp your helm, lifting it free, and the evening air rushes cool against your sweat-damp hair. The camp is noise and silence at once. Hammer strikes wood, iron rings against anvils, pots bubble with thin stew, but under it runs a current of quiet, the shared thought of walls waiting, of defenders watching from behind stone. You sit on a log, dip bread into the stew, chew slowly. The flavour is smoke, salt and barley, filling enough to dull the ache in your belly. A dog noses past, tail low, searching for scraps. You drop a morsel, and it snatches it, disappearing into the shadows. Night thickens. Stars prick through the dark, distant and sharp. The camp settles into murmurs, prayers whispered at tent doors, armour checked one last time. You lie down on your cloak, the ground uneven, the air damp with dew. Around you men breathe in unison, some already asleep, some murmuring fragments of psalms. The fortress looms, unseen now but remembered by every mind, a weight pressing even in dreams. You close your eyes, and the last sound you hear is the faint clink of a brother's chainmail as he shifts in the dark, restless as you are. The dawn comes muted, veiled by thin clouds that let through only a pale greyish light. You rise stiffly from the cloak you used as bedding, the damp seeping into your bones. The camp around you stirs, men shifting, horses stamping, fire pits glowing with coals coaxed back to life. The air smells of ash and boiled barley, of leather damp with dew. The bell clangs once, then twice, not the measured rhythm of a monastery's morning, but sharp strokes that cut across the camp and press urgency into your chest. You stand and gather your gear, fastening straps that pinch, tightening buckles that dig into your flesh. The leather is still damp from yesterday's ride. It creaks against your shoulders as you move. You feel each buckle as if it were another heartbeat, each strap a reminder that your body will carry more weight today than it was ever meant to. In the clearing, men gather in rows. The ground is uneven, littered with stones and churned by hooves, but the formation holds. A sergeant calls the order, his voice a rasp of command sharpened by years of use. The line steps forward, swords rise, shields brace, feet stamp against earth. You follow, every motion drilled so deep it feels less like obedience and more like breath. The clang of steel rings out, a rhythm of strikes and blocks that builds into a kind of music. Each blow reverberates up your arm, rattles your teeth. Your shield shakes under the impact of another's practice strike, the wood groaning under pressure. Sweat beads on your forehead, even in the cool morning air. The repetition drives the ache deeper, muscles trembling, breath ragged, but still you move. You glance at the faces beside you, grim, focused, some pale with fatigue, others flushed with exertion. No one speaks, only the clang of iron and the bark of command. A brother stumbles, his foot catching on a stone, and the line ripples. He rights himself, and the sergeant's glare cuts through him sharper than any blade. Silence returns, heavier now, as if the very air has learned discipline. The horses are drilled too. In the yard at the camp's edge, destriers wheel and rear, their hooves drumming the packed earth. Grooms shout, their voices rising over the snorts and whinnies. Saddles thump, harnesses jangle, leather straps slap against flanks. The smell of horse sweat and hot iron fills the air, sharp and heavy. You watch them, knowing that your life will rest as much in their steadiness as in your sword. By mid-morning, the training intensifies. Shields are locked in formation, lines braced shoulder to shoulder. The press of bodies closes around you. Breath mingling, sweat dampening wool. A command snaps, and the line surges forward. Boots slam into the earth in unison, shields driving ahead. The impact jars your arm, rattles your bones. For a moment it feels like the ground itself gives way beneath the weight of discipline. Then comes the counter. A second line presses against yours, wooden swords slamming into shields, the crack of wood echoing like thunder. The noise swells, filling your ears until there is nothing else. Your arm burns with effort. Your shoulders scream, but still you hold. You grit your teeth, lips pulled tight, eyes fixed on the shield in front of you. A command breaks the clash. The lines part, men gasping, sweat dripping, arms trembling. You stagger back a step, heart pounding. Around you, brothers lower their shields, faces flushed, chests heaving. No one speaks. The silence is broken only by the ragged pull of breath and the shuffle of boots against dirt. At midday, the drill shifts. Bows are strung, crossbows cranked with groaning winches. Boats snap forward, thudding into straw targets that shiver under impact. The sound is dull compared to steel on steel, but more final, more certain. You feel the difference in your chest, the knowledge that a bolt ends what a sword only threatens. A brother mutters a prayer before releasing his shot, as if the act itself needs sanctifying. Then the spears come, long shafts braced against shoulders, points glittering in the pale light. The line moves again, slower this time, more deliberate. You feel the weight of the spear in your hands, the balance between wood and iron. The point wavers slightly, your arms straining to keep it steady. You march forward, the line advancing step by step, the points glinting like a wall of stars. You break for bread and water. The bread is hard, The water lukewarm from the skins, but it steadies you. You chew slowly, listening to the murmur of men around you. Some whisper of the fortress, its walls thick, its gates barred, its defenders waiting with stores of stone and oil. Records suggest such strongholds could endure for months, their wells and granaries deep enough to outlast any siege. Yet whispers claim the garrison is weak, undersupplied, wavering. You cannot know which is true. Afternoon drills test endurance. You march in formation with full kit, the weight dragging at your shoulders, chainmail biting into your skin. The sun breaks through the clouds, and the heat swells. Sweat runs under your tunic, stinging your eyes. Your breath rasps, lungs burning with each step. Still the line holds, still the pace is steady. Each footfall lands with the rhythm of inevitability. Thud, clink, creak, breath. A moment of near collapse comes. One brother falters, knees buckling. Two others grip his arms and keep him upright, pulling him forward until he regains his footing. No words pass between them. The gesture is enough. Solidarity moves silently through the line, stronger than command. Evening draws near. The drills end, but the tension does not. The fortress looms closer now, its towers dark against the reddening sky. You can see the banners stir in the wind, though you cannot yet read their symbols. The camp buzzes with preparations. Engines assembled, timbers hauled, ropes knotted. The air smells of resin and fresh-cut pine, the wood destined to become ladders, towers, rams. You sit by the fire, arms heavy, shoulders sore. The stew tonight is thickened with lentils, a rare richness, but your stomach twists too tight to enjoy it. Across the fire, a brother sharpens his sword, the rasp of stone against steel steady, relentless. Sparks leap in the firelight, bright against the dark. A lay brother carries water, the wooden bucket sloshing, droplets catching the light before falling into dust. He stumbles, spilling half, and curses softly before bowing his head. Ashamed, you offer your cup to help him balance the load. His eyes flicker gratitude, and the faintest smile lifts his face before he disappears into the shadows. The night deepens. A patrol passes, their footsteps crunching softly in the grass, the clink of mail faint but constant. Above, the sky glitters with stars, cold and distant. You lie down, the earth hard beneath you, cloak drawn tight against the chill. The sound of hammers still rings in the distance, slow and steady, as if the night itself is being nailed together piece by piece. Your eyes close. Sleep comes shallow, uneasy. You dream of walls taller than mountains, gates heavier than the sky, and the sound of drums that never stop. The morning breaks again, though it feels as if the night never truly ended. You wake with the heaviness of interrupted sleep, body stiff from drills, the taste of ash still in your mouth from last night's fire. The camp already hums with motion. Horses stamp and toss their heads. Men shuffle between tents, their white mantles brushing one another as they pass. The smell of damp earth and smoke clings to everything, a reminder that comfort is a thing left behind. You rise, gathering yourself piece by piece, every motion deliberate. Today the task is not sparring or marching drills, but packing for the campaign ahead. A siege does not forgive forgetfulness, and every strap, every morsel, every iron hook will matter. Your kit lies where you left it, sword resting in its scabbard, shield propped against a post, saddlebags half filled with odds and ends. You begin with the basics: bread, flat and dense, meant to last days without spoiling. Dried beans in a small sack, their rattle sharp as you lower them into the bag. A wedge of cheese wrapped in cloth, already beginning to sweat in the morning warmth. Records suggest Templars were allotted 2 or 3 meals a day, with meat only on certain days, but campaign rations bent rules as easily as iron bends under heat. You slip a flask of watered wine into the pack, its stopper bound with waxed thread. The wine will not spoil the way water might, though it tastes thin and sour. You tuck away a handful of dried figs, small sweetness that feel almost sinful in their luxury. A brother across the camp counts salted fish into a barrel, his lips moving silently as he tallies. The smell drifts sharp and briny, clashing with the smoke of the cook fires. Next comes the gear of war. You check your hauberk link by link, fingers running over the mesh like a farmer testing grain. One ring is bent. You set it aside to repair when the chance comes. The coif you fold carefully, its cold weight dragging against your hands. Your sword you draw, testing the edge. The blade whispers as it leaves the scabbard, light catching on its steel. You run your thumb along the fuller, not to test sharpness but to feel its straightness. Into the saddlebags go tools, a small hammer, spare rivets, a length of leather cord. Quirky details survive in letters. Templars carried awls to mend saddles, and wax to seal seams against rain. You pack both, knowing the road will test every stitch. You add a whetstone, smooth and dark, worn by years of grinding. The stone smells faintly of oil, of iron dust. Your horse waits tethered nearby, ears flicking at every sound. You brush his coat quickly, fingers pulling loose hair, palm pressed against warm hide. He shifts, snorts, nudges your shoulder. You check the girth strap, tugging it tight, then slip a small bag of oats into the saddle's side pocket. Campaigns are as hard on horses as on men, and you know his strength will be your strength. The camp swells with motion. Men crouch beside packs, tying knots, checking straps. A boy carries buckets of water, slopping half with each step, his thin arms trembling under the weight. He spills some, curses under his breath, then meets your gaze with wide, guilty eyes. You nod at him, wordless, and he scurries on. The noise grows. Hammers strike, ropes creak, orders cut through the air. At one edge of the camp, carpenters lash together beams for a siege tower, their voices rising in a rough chorus of effort. The smell of resin seeps from fresh-cut wood, mingling with sweat and smoke. A wagon groans as oxen pull it across the rutted ground, its wheels sinking into mud. Inside lie bundles of arrows, bolts and stones, ammunition for days that may stretch into weeks. You shoulder your pack and feel its weight settle like a second body against your own. The straps bite into your shoulders, the chain beneath rubbing your skin raw. You test the balance, shifting until it sits evenly. Beside you, a brother adjusts his saddlebag and mutters about the missing strap that should hold his water skin. Another kneels to fix a broken buckle, knife scraping against leather. These small details, tiny failures, quiet repairs, are what make a campaign real, not the clean lines of chronicles written later. As noon approaches, the sun pushes through the clouds. The camp glows golden, though the heat it promises feels more burden than gift. You take a last look at your tent. Canvas stained, ropes frayed, ground beneath flattened by nights of restless sleep. Soon it will be struck, packed onto wagons, and gone. Home is wherever the order marches, and today that means forward. The master rides through the camp, cloak fluttering. His presence stills the noise like wind snuffing a candle. He says little, only that the time is near, the walls ahead high, the task heavy but holy. His words are not poetry, they are iron hammered flat. You nod, along with the others, not because you feel lighter, but because obedience weighs less than doubt. Afternoon passes in a blur of last checks. Horses watered again, hooves scraped clean of stones, weapons sharpened until sparks fly in the sunlight, helmets lined with fresh cloth to soften their bite against the skull. A few men kneel in prayer, lips moving silently, fingers tracing the cross stitched into their mantles. You join them for a moment, whispering words you half remember, trusting that faith listens even when memory falters. As evening falls, the camp gathers for a meal. Bowls of barley stew are ladled out, steam curling into the cool air. The taste is simple, but it steadies the body, fills the space hunger carved hollow. Silence holds, broken only by the voice of a reader reciting psalms. The cadence soothes, wrapping the camp in sound older than any wall or weapon. When the meal ends, you lie again on the earth, cloak drawn over you. The stars prick the sky, faint and cold. Around you the camp quiets, though the hammering continues at the edge, slow and steady as carpenters finish the work of war. You close your eyes, the weight of the pack already pressing into your shoulders, though you no longer wear it. Sleep comes in fragments, each dream carrying you forward to the fortress that waits. And you know tomorrow the march will begin. The night fades in fragments. First, the low glow of embers in the fire pits, then the shuffle of boots, then the cold air carrying the smell of wet canvas and horse sweat. You wake before the sun, though you cannot say if you ever truly slept. Around you brothers stir in silence, pulling on boots, lacing straps, shaking out cloaks heavy with dew. Somewhere nearby, a horse nickers, impatient, stamping its hoof against the earth. The bell sounds once, drawn out and heavy. Its voice settles over the camp like a hand pressing down, guiding every motion. You stand, shoulders stiff, and gather your pack. The leather creaks under strain. Your sword feels heavier than yesterday, though nothing has changed. It is only the weight of what lies ahead. Men file into lines, white mantles catching the faint silver of dawn. The red crosses blur in the half-light, shadows stitched into fabric. The master rides to the front, his destrier pawing the ground, steam rising from its nostrils. He does not raise his voice, he simply lifts his hand, and the column begins to move. You fall into rhythm, hooves striking earth in steady beats. The road is still soft from rain, mud clinging to boots, splattering against wool, wheels groan as wagons creak forward, laden with timber, barrels, coils of rope. Oxen strain, their breaths loud and rough. The column stretches long, a snake of iron and leather crawling toward the horizon. The countryside wakes as you pass. Fields glisten with dew, stalks of barley bending under the weight of water. Smoke rises from distant cottages, thin lines against the pale sky. A woman lifts a child onto her hip and watches from a doorway, eyes following the white and red tide. Chickens scatter, feathers flashing as they dart across the road. A dog barks once, then retreats, tail low. The sun rises slowly, pale gold pushing through the mist. It warms the back of your neck, but the chain under your cloak holds the cold. Sweat gathers along your spine anyway, dampening the linen of your tunic. You shift in the saddle, adjusting the weight. Your horse flicks its ears, catching sounds you do not hear. The rustle of brush, the crack of a twig, the distant call of crows. The pace is steady but not swift. Records suggest a day's march for mounted men could cover 20 to 30 miles, but on campaign the distance is less, slowed by wagons, by engines of war, by the sheer mass of men moving as one. The road dips, climbs, dips again. Each step feels the same, yet each carries you farther from the safety of walls, and closer to stone that resists. At mid-morning the order is given to halt. Horses drink from troughs hastily filled with buckets. Men dismount, stretching legs stiff from hours in the saddle. You pull bread from your pack, hard crust softened with watered wine. The taste is plain, but hunger makes it welcome. A brother beside you shares a handful of almonds, their shells rough, their taste earthy. You chew slowly, the sound of hooves and voices filling the pause. Then the column moves again. The sun climbs higher, heat pressing against mail, sweat-soaking cloth. Flies buzz around the horses, their wings a constant drone. You swat one from your neck, leaving a smear of blood. The air grows heavy with dust kicked up by hooves, clinging to your lips, coating your tongue. You swallow and feel the grit grind against your teeth. By afternoon, the road narrows through a valley. Hills rise on either side, dotted with olive groves and scrub. Shadows lengthen, the air cooling as the sun tilts west. Your horse's hooves strike stone now, the sound sharper, echoing off the slopes. You glance upward, half expecting eyes watching from the ridges. Perhaps there are none. Perhaps there are many. The uncertainty is its own weight. A trumpet sounds, a single note, short, sharp. The column halts, men shift, horses snort. The air holds still, scouts ride ahead, their cloaks snapping in the breeze. You wait, fingers tightening on reins, ears straining for sounds you cannot name. The minutes stretch. Then the trumpet calls again, 2 notes this time, and relief trickles through the line. The road is clear. For now. You ride on, the sun sinking lower. The light turns amber, painting the world in golden shadow. The fortress appears in the distance, just a smudge against the horizon, but enough to set murmurs running through the ranks. Its towers rise, dark and square, walls heavy against the sky. You feel the change ripple through the column, breath catching, shoulders stiffening. No one speaks the word, but all think it's siege. Evening falls. The camp rises again, tents sprouting like pale mushrooms across the field. Fires crackle, smoke curling into the dusk. You dismount, legs trembling from hours in the saddle. A lay brother leads your horse away, brushing its flanks, feeding it oats. You loosen your belt, easing the pressure, and sink onto a log. Your body hums with fatigue, muscles trembling with each breath. The meal is thin stew again, barley and lentils, the taste smoky from the fire. You eat in silence, the voice of a reader carrying over the camp, psalms steady and low. Sparks drift upward into the dark, vanishing among the stars. You swallow the last of your portion, the warmth settling in your belly, dulling the ache of hunger. The night grows deep. You lie beneath the sky, cloak drawn tight, the ground cold and uneven beneath you. Around you, men murmur prayers, voices fading one by one. In the distance, the fortress looms, unseen in the dark but present all the same, its weight pressing into your chest, even as sleep steals your breath. Your eyes close. The road is behind you, the walls are ahead, and tomorrow the real work begins. The morning begins not with bells but with the sound of hooves striking hardened earth. You wake to the steady rhythm of leather creaking and men muttering, to the clink of chain against chain as brothers pull armor tight over weary bodies. The camp is already breaking down around you, tents sagging as ropes are loosed, fires dying into cold ash, wagons groaning under their burdens. The smell is of smoke, manure, and damp canvas folded still wet with dew. You swing into the saddle, muscles protesting, thighs sore from yesterday's march. The destrier shifts beneath you, ears twitching, impatient to move. You adjust the girth strap one last time, tugging it tight, the leather biting into your palm. Then the order is given, and the column lurches forward, a slow ripple that becomes steady motion. The road is harder now, rutted with old tracks, dry soil broken into ridges by carts long gone. Each hoofbeat sends up small clouds of dust. Soon the air grows thick with it, grit stinging your eyes, clinging to your lips. You taste the earth with every breath, the flavour of stone and dryness that grinds between your teeth. The sun climbs quickly, higher and hotter than yesterday. The morning cool fades, leaving only heat pressing on mail and wool. Sweat gathers beneath your coif, trickling down your neck, soaking your tunic. You shift in the saddle, trying to find relief, but there is none. The heat presses from above, the weight of steel presses from below, and you are the thin breath caught in between. Conversation flickers here and there. A brother ahead murmurs a psalm, voice soft but steady, the cadence carrying down the line. Another grumbles about the dust, his complaint swallowed by the plod of hooves. You catch fragments, a tale of a battle fought years ago, a rumour of treasure hidden behind fortress walls, a whisper of betrayal by lords who owe more to the Templars than they wish to admit. Records hint that kings feared the Order's wealth as much as they relied upon it, and the memory clings to your mind like burrs in wool. By midday the heat grows oppressive. Helmets dangle from saddles too heavy to bear under the sun. The line halts, and you dismount, stretching stiff legs, Horses drink greedily from troughs hastily dug and filled. Men slump in the shade of wagons, tearing at bread crusts and chewing salted meat. You soften a piece of bread with watered wine, the liquid warm and sour, but it eases the dryness in your throat. A brother offers you half of a dried date, sticky and sweet, a mercy against the taste of dust. The halt is brief. Soon the trumpet calls again, and the column moves. The road stretches on, endless, dust rising with each step until the world becomes a haze. You lower your head, eyes squinting against the glare. Your destrier snorts, shaking its mane, and you pat its neck, murmuring a wordless reassurance. Its hide is slick with sweat, its breath heavy, but still it carries you forward. The afternoon brings signs of nearness. The road widens, worn deeper by traffic. Old walls appear, crumbling. Stones tumbled into weeds. A dry well yawns beside the path, its stone still blackened by fire long past. Birds circle above, cawing, their shadows darting across the ground. You pass a grove of olive trees, their twisted trunks gnarled with age, leaves shimmering silver in the sun. The air here smells faintly of resin and dust, a dry sweetness that lingers in the nose. Scouts return, their faces drawn. They report movement ahead, though what kind none can say. Perhaps defenders testing the land, perhaps villagers fleeing before the tide of men and horses. The uncertainty weighs heavier than armor. You feel it in the silence that spreads, in the way voices fade and only the sound of hooves remains. The road rises onto a ridge. From there you see it, the fortress, clearer now than before. Its walls rise square and thick, towers sharp against the sky. A banner flutters faintly, its colours lost to distance, but its presence enough to tighten your chest. The murmur ripples through the line again. You feel your destrier tense beneath you, as if it too senses what waits ahead. The sun begins its descent, shadows stretching long across the land. The column slows, then halts. A field is chosen for camp, and men dismount with groans of relief. Wagons circle, tents rise, fires spark to life. The smell of wood smoke returns, mingled with sweat and horse, the scent of a moving world pausing just long enough to breathe. You tend your horse first, brushing its coat, checking its hooves. It leans into your hand, eyes half closed, grateful for the touch. You feed it a handful of oats, watching as it chews slowly, steady as the sun sinking in the west. Then you unbuckle your armor piece by piece, feeling each weight lift until only fatigue remains. Supper is thin stew again, barley and lentils, but tonight it tastes heavier, seasoned with anticipation. Silence holds the camp, broken only by the murmur of psalms and the crackle of fire. You eat slowly, each mouthful a task, your thoughts drifting to the walls that loom closer with every mile. Night falls. Stars pierce the sky, sharp and cold. You lie on your cloak, the ground hard beneath, the air cool against your face. Around you, men breathe in unison, the rhythm of exhaustion binding them together. You close your eyes and the dust lingers in your mouth, the taste of the road still clinging to you even in dreams. The camp takes shape in the dying light of day, a living organism growing from carts, ropes, and tired hands. Wagons are pulled into rough circles, their axles creaking as oxen strain, wheels sinking deep into soft earth. Horses are led away, their hooves leaving dark prints in the grass, steam rising from their flanks like the breath of hidden fires. Tents bloom unevenly, canvas pulled taut where knots are sure, sagging where fatigue has dulled skill. The smell of trampled earth mingles with the tang of dung and the acrid smoke of the first fires, smoke that curls skyward as if searching for stars not yet revealed. You move among the bustle, body heavy but motions automatic. The saddle slips from your destrier's back with a grunt, and the horse shakes its mane in relief. Its hide is slick, warm beneath your palms as you rub it down with coarse cloth. He shivers once, then leans into your hand, the bond between you built on sweat, oats, and trust. You murmur words without thinking, nonsense and prayer woven into the same breath, before leading him to a trough where the water ripples silver under the fading sky. The bell sounds once, a low iron moan that rolls across the field. It is not a call to chapel, but a summons to order, a reminder that silence is as much a weapon as the sword. Voices lower instantly, conversations trim to whispers, even the horses quiet, ears flicking but mouths still. Fires burn brighter against the dark, their sparks climbing like fireflies that never return. You find a place by one of the flames. Brothers gather close, cloaks drawn tight against the evening chill. A wooden bowl is pressed into your hands, the surface rough, its grain darkened by years of heat and stew. Inside, barley and lentils swim in cloudy broth, steam carrying the faint sweetness of onion and the bitterness of smoke. You dip your spoon and swallow. The warmth spreads outward, easing the ache carved into your ribs by hunger and fatigue. Around the fire, the only sounds are spoons clicking, breath steadying, and the occasional cough swallowed quickly, so as not to disturb the quiet. Across the blaze, Brother Guillaume sharpens his sword. The whetstone rasps against steel, the sound patient, deliberate, sparks winking in the gloom. His lips move, perhaps in prayer, perhaps in rhythm with the stone. Beside him, Brother Etienne mends a strap. His knife saws softly through leather, each scrape like the turning of a wheel. These small rituals, the maintenance of blade and strap, carry more weight than lofty words. Without them, the siege ahead would be lost before the first ladder touched stone. Not far away, carpenters work by torchlight, the smell of resin thick where fresh beams are cut. Their hammers strike wood in muffled cadence, building the skeletons of towers that will crawl toward the fortress walls. The air rings with labor, iron nails driven, ropes knotted, wheels tested. You watch for a moment, noting how the firelight throws long shadows of men bending, lifting, bracing. Each shadow looks taller than the man who casts it, giants laboring under an unseen yoke. A brother across the circle shakes a pouch and spills out dried figs. He passes them around, one to each hand. When it reaches you, you take one, the fruit sticky, seeds crunching between your teeth. The sweetness lingers, clinging to your tongue, a rare mercy in the austerity of campaign life. You chew slowly, eyes fixed on the fire, and for a moment the weight of the day softens. These small gifts matter, more than victories, more than coin. Whispers drift among the flames. Some speak of the fortress ahead, its walls high but its people thin. Others insist the defenders are well supplied, their stores hidden deep in caverns, their spirits hardened by desperation. Records from old chronicles suggest both were true in different places. And as you listen, you realize that certainty has no place in war. The truth of walls is only known when you stand at their base and hear the stones answer your ladders. Later, prayers are called. Voices rise together, low and steady, weaving through the camp like threads of smoke. The psalm is familiar, its rhythm worn smooth by repetition, its syllables whispered as much as spoken. You join in, your lips moving softly, the sound blending until you are no longer yourself but part of a single voice. The chant settles your chest, slows your breath, wraps you in the rhythm of something older than fear. When the prayers end, the camp quiets again. Men stretch out on cloaks, helmets tucked beneath their heads, swords within reach of weary hands. Horses shift in their lines, snorting softly, hooves stamping once before settling. Fires burn lower, embers glowing red, the smoke rising lazily into the black. You lie down, the ground uneven but familiar. The cloak pulls around your shoulders, stiff with dust, still warm where the fire touched it. The smell of smoke clings to your hair, to your hands, to the very breath you draw. You stare upward, eyes tracing constellations you barely recall, stars sharp and cold, scattered like salt across an endless black table. Sleep does not come quickly. You hear the murmurs of brothers drifting into dreams, their voices fragments of prayers half-formed. A dog barks once at the edge of camp, then falls silent. A wagon creaks as wood settles into earth. Beside you, the slow, steady breath of a fellow knight becomes your anchor. Your eyes close at last. The fire's glow lingers behind your lids, fading slowly into nothing. The fortress looms nearer with each breath you take, unseen but pressing against your thoughts, heavy even in the cradle of sleep. And you know tomorrow will draw you closer to stone. Dawn bleeds slowly into the camp. First the pale stripe of light along the horizon, then the outlines of tents turning from shadow to shape. The bell strikes once, low and deliberate, and the camp begins to stir. You rise stiffly, cloak damp with dew, hair smelling of smoke and dust. Around you, brothers rouse themselves in silence, pulling on boots, lacing belts, checking straps with the dull patience of men who know the weight of the day. The fires have burned down to ash. A boy stirs one with an iron rod, coaxing embers into a small flame, then blows gently until smoke curls upward again. The smell of barley porridge drifts through the camp, thin but comforting. You eat quickly, the gruel warm in your mouth, a taste of smoke clinging to each bite. Your stomach knots with nerves more than hunger, but you swallow anyway because the road ahead will not wait. The order comes with no flourish. Strike camp, hands pull at ropes, canvas falls in folds, wagons are loaded. The air fills with the groan of wood, the creak of harnesses, the low murmur of oxen straining. Horses are saddled, hooves stamping impatiently. Mail clinks as it is shrugged over tunics. Helms slung from belts, shields strapped across backs. The clatter builds into a rhythm of preparation, a chorus of iron and leather. You mount, the saddle cold beneath you, your destrier shifting as though it senses what lies ahead. The column forms, white mantles bright against the dim morning. The master rides forward, raising one hand, and the march begins. The road is harder now, narrower, its surface worn by centuries of travellers. Dust rises under hooves, coating your lips, filling your throat. The air tastes of earth, dry and bitter. You lower your head against it, eyes narrowed, reins tight in your hands. Around you the line stretches far, a living tide of horses, wagons, men and timbered engines. Hours pass, measured not by clocks but by the rhythm of hooves and the strike of wheels in ruts. The sun climbs higher, burning away the last of the mist. Heat presses against your back, sweat slicking beneath your mail, dripping along your spine. Your destrier's breath comes heavy, flanks wet with foam. You pat his neck, murmuring softly, feeling the tremor of muscle under skin. Conversation flickers in fragments, swallowed quickly by the weight of dust and heat. One brother hums a psalm under his breath, another mutters about the fortress walls, another wonders aloud if water will be plentiful near the site. Records suggest that sieges often failed not because of stone or arrow, but because men and horses dried up under sun and thirst. The thought lingers in your mind, dry as the dust coating your tongue. At midday the order is given to halt. Horses are watered from barrels sloshed into troughs. Men slump in the shade of wagons, pulling off helms to wipe sweat from brows. You eat a crust of bread softened in wine, its taste sour but steadying. A brother beside you shares a handful of almonds, their shells rough in your palm, their taste earthy, a brief mercy. Then the trumpet calls, and the column stirs again. You remount, legs stiff, and the march continues. The road rises now, climbing a ridge. You feel the strain in your thighs, the horse's hooves striking stone instead of earth, the sound sharper, echoing in the valley below. And then you see it, the fortress. It rises ahead, dark against the horizon, its walls square and unyielding. Towers jut upward, banners snapping faintly in the wind. Even from this distance the shape of battlements is clear, the cut of arrows slits like black eyes watching from the stone. The air seems to still around you, the lines slowing as every gaze fixes on the same sight. The fortress is not grand, not shining, but it is heavy, immovable. a mountain built by hands. Its walls promise resistance. Its gates promise struggle. The murmur spreads through the column, low and uneasy. Some speak of its strength, others of its weakness. Letters from years past hint that such strongholds often fell as much to hunger as to sword. But standing here looking at stone, you cannot believe it will ever yield. The column halts again, camp rising on the slopes beneath the walls. Tents sprout like pale mushrooms. Fires spark into life. Wagons are drawn into circles. The air fills with the smell of fresh-cut timber as carpenters unload beams, hammers striking, ropes tightening. Siege towers will be built here, ladders lashed, rams braced. The fortress looms above, silent, its defenders unseen but surely watching. You dismount, legs trembling, and hand your horse to a groom. His eyes flick to the walls, then back to his task, face pale but steady. You loosen your belt, easing the weight of chainmail, and sink onto a log. The air hums with tension, thick as smoke before a fire. Supper comes stew of barley and beans. Its taste simple, its warmth grounding. You eat slowly, your gaze drawn again and again to the fortress. The sky darkens, stars prick through the dusk, fires glow across the slope. You hear the chant of prayers, voices rising together, steadying breath, steadying hands. When sleep comes, it is shallow. You lie on your cloak. The ground cold, the air heavy with wood smoke. The fortress fills your mind even with closed eyes. Its towers looming, its walls unbroken, its silence pressing against your chest. Tomorrow you will stand closer. Tomorrow the stones will answer. The morning breaks with a chill that seeps through your cloak and into your bones. You rise stiffly from the ground, the smell of damp grass clinging to your hair. The fortress looms above, dark and silent, its walls black silhouettes against the paling sky. For a moment you almost believe it is lifeless stone, indifferent and unmoving. But then a torch flickers on the battlements, a figure shifts and the truth returns. Men wait there, watching, ready. The bell clangs once, echoing through the camp. The sound is not for prayer but for preparation. The camp stirs into motion. Tents are struck, wagons rolled forward. Carpenters hammer beams into frames. Ropes creak as pulleys lift timbers into place. Siege towers rise like skeletal giants, their wooden bones lashed tight. Ladders are laid out, their rungs worn smooth by hands that will soon grip them under fire. The air smells of resin, of fresh-cut pine, of sweat and iron. You tighten the straps of your mail, the leather biting into your shoulders. Your sword hangs heavy at your side, its weight familiar but no less burdensome. You strap your shield across your arm, its wood scarred, its surface painted with a cross that looks brighter than you feel. Your destrier shifts beneath you, restless, ears flicking toward the fortress. You pat his neck, murmuring a word of calm that steadies you as much as him. The order comes. The column moves forward, slow and steady, across the field that separates camp from walls. The ground is uneven, churned by wagons, scarred by trenches dug hastily in the night. The air is thick with tension, every breath shallow, every motion deliberate. Then it begins. A shout from the walls, sharp and guttural, stones crash down, striking earth with dull thuds, shattering wood, splintering shields. Arrows hiss through the air, black lines against the morning sky. One clatters against your shield, the impact rattling up your arm. Another strikes the ground at your horse's hooves, and he rears, snorting, before you pull him steady again. The sound is everywhere, the snap of bowstrings, the whistle of arrows, the thud of impact, the cries of men struck. Your brothers press forward, shields raised, steps heavy. The engines roll closer. A ram lurches toward the gate, its head iron-bound, its frame groaning with each push. Siege towers creep across the field, wheels straining in the mud, ropes taut as oxen strain against their yokes. The defenders shout again, pouring boiling liquid from above, stones tumbling, arrows raining. The air smells of pitch, of smoke, of iron. You grip your reins tight, your shield tighter, your breath sharp in your throat. A brother falls beside you, an arrow lodged in his chest, his mouth opening in a silent cry. You glance once, then forward again. There is no time for grief, only motion. You step where he fell, your boots striking earth already stained. Closer now. The walls loom high, their stones dark, their battlements bristling with men. You see their faces for the first time, bearded, grim, eyes hard with the same fear and resolve that burns in your own chest. They are not nameless. They are men, as weary, as bound, as unwilling to yield. The ram strikes the gate. The sound is a deep, resonant boom, wood against wood, iron against oak. The gate shudders, dust spilling from its hinges. Again the ram swings. Again the gate trembles. The fortress answers with stones, crashing down, splintering the ram's frame, crushing men beneath. Cries rise, sharp and brief, swallowed quickly by the roar of impact. Arrows still fall. You raise your shield, the thud of shafts rattling its surface. Your arm burns with the effort, muscles trembling. Sweat stings your eyes, drips down your cheek. You grit your teeth. Step forward again. The ground shakes under the impact of stones. The air splits with the hiss of fire as defenders hurl burning pitch. Flames leap where it splashes. Men scream as wool and flesh ignite. Buckets of water are rushed forward, but the fire spreads quicker than hands can smother. The siege tower creaks closer, its frame towering, shadows stretching long against the wall. Defenders pour arrows into it, flames licking at its timbers, but still it crawls forward, inch by inch. Men inside it pray, voices shaking, hands gripping weapons that feel like promises made too soon. You press against the wall now, the stone cool even in the heat of fire. The air smells of dust, of smoke, of blood. Above, the defenders shout, their words lost in the roar, but their meaning clear. They will not yield easily. The order comes to fall back. Trumpets blare, sharp and urgent. Men stumble, retreat, shields raised, carrying wounded where they can, leaving the fallen where they must. The field is a chaos of bodies, wagons, engines. The fortress looms above, unbroken, its silence after the clash more terrible than its noise. You stagger back into camp, lungs burning, body aching. Your shield is scarred with arrows, your cloak singed, your arm trembling with exhaustion. You drop onto the ground, breath ragged, the noise of retreat echoing in your ears. Around you, men collapse in heaps, some silent, some groaning, some praying. The fortress stands. Night falls heavy. Fires burn low, their smoke curling upward into a sky that feels indifferent. The camp is quieter than before. Voices hushed, motions slower. You eat barley stew again. The taste ash in your mouth, your stomach tight with more than hunger. Across the fire, Guillaume stares into the flames, his whetstone forgotten in his lap. Etienne mutters prayers under his breath, fingers twitching as if still gripping a strap. You lie down on your cloak, the ground harder than before, the air colder. The fortress presses into your thoughts, its walls rising behind your eyelids, its silence heavier than stone. You close your eyes, and sleep comes not as rest but as surrender, shallow and uneasy. The siege has begun, and tomorrow will ask more. The sun rises without mercy. Its light stretches across the field like a sheet of fire, burning away the last of the dawn mist, leaving nothing but glare and heat. The fortress dominates the horizon, its dark silhouette etched against the pale sky. For a moment, the walls almost look golden, bathed in the early light. But beauty is an illusion here. Behind that glow lie men waiting with bows strung, stones stacked neatly in piles, jars of oil prepared for fire. You wake slowly, every muscle stiff, cloak damp with sweat instead of dew. The ground beneath you is cracked and dusty, the smell of trampled grass replaced by the sharp tang of ash from last night's fires. A cough rattles the air. Then another. A brother nearby spits into the dirt, the stain dark against the pale soil. He wipes his mouth on his sleeve, grimaces, and pulls his mantle tighter, even though the day is already warming. You eat a crust of bread, softened in watered wine. The crust cracks, dust crunching between your teeth. The wine sour but welcome. Around you, men huddle in the narrow shade of wagons, heads bowed, spoons clinking softly against wooden bowls. There is little talk, only the rustle of cloaks and the steady rasp of whetstones. One brother mends a strap, needle flashing in the sun, thread pulled taut with every motion. Another oils a crossbow, the scent of tallow thick, his hands blackened with grease. These are the small tasks that fill endless hours, the rhythm of survival disguised as routine. By mid-morning the heat has thickened, mail burns against your skin, sweat gathers in every crease of fabric, trickling into your eyes, stinging until you can hardly see. The air shimmers above the earth, mirages bending the road into rivers of false water. Horses stand with heads low, flanks twitching against flies. Foam gathers at their mouths, white and bitter. Flies swarm everywhere, on sweat, on wounds, on food. Their buzzing is constant, maddening, a noise you cannot escape. You swat one from your neck and smear blood across your skin, the taste of dust still clinging to your lips. The first volley comes without warning. A cry rises from the walls, guttural and sharp, stones arc overhead, shadows racing across the ground. One smashes into the earth near you, a spray of dirt and rock stinging your face. Another slams into a wagon, splintering its side, spilling arrows across the ground like spilled teeth. Men shout, shields raise, horses rear, and the air fills with the hiss of arrows, thin black lines against the white sky. One thuds into your shield, the jolt rattling up your arm, leaving it numb for a moment. Another clatters against your helmet, sliding off with a screech of steel on steel. The noise builds into chaos. The crack of stones, the whistle of arrows, the groan of wood, the cries of the struck. Men fall, some silently, others with a shout cut short. A brother collapses near you, an arrow through his thigh, his blood soaking quickly into the dust. He gasps once, gripping his leg, but two others drag him back before the defenders can send another volley. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ends. The walls fall silent. No arrows fly. No stones fall. The defenders vanish behind stone, leaving nothing but the echo of their fury. The silence presses down heavier than noise, filling every breath with unease. You strain your ears, as if listening harder might catch the sound of what waits, but the fortress gives nothing away. The order comes. Dig. You grip a spade, its handle smooth with wear, and begin to cut into the earth. The soil is dry, resistant, crumbling into dust that fills your nose and mouth. Each thrust of the spade jolts your arms, blisters rising under your gloves. Sweat runs down your temples, soaking your coif, dripping into your eyes. The trench deepens slowly, enough for you to crouch, to hide when arrows rain. Around you, men labor in silence, their breathing harsh, the scrape of iron on stone steady as a drumbeat. Hours pass. The trench grows, jagged and uneven but serviceable. You slump against its side, chest heaving, arms trembling from strain. A brother passes you a water skin. The liquid inside is warm, tasting faintly of leather, but you drink greedily, wiping your mouth with the back of your hand. Your tongue feels less like stone, your throat less like ash. At evening, the siege engines are pushed forward. The ram lurches ahead, its head iron-bound, frame groaning with every shove. The siege tower creaks on its wheels, shadow stretching long across the field. Defenders answer instantly, pitch hurled from above, bursting into flame where it strikes. Buckets of water are rushed forward, men shouting, their cloaks blackened with soot. The smell of burning pine fills the air, thick and bitter. Smoke rises in choking plumes, blotting out the last of the light. The sun sinks, but heat lingers, radiating from stone, from earth, from fire. The camp pulls back, retreating to safer ground. You collapse onto the dirt, armor digging into your ribs, cloak heavy with dust. Supper is ladled out. Thin barley stew, beans floating like dark eyes in cloudy broth. You eat slowly, each mouthful heavy, the taste of smoke clinging. The reader's voice carries across the camp, reciting psalms, words steady though throats are raw. Night falls thick. Fires burn low, their glow dim against the dark. The fortress looms above, silent, its shadow cutting against the stars. You lie down, ground hard beneath you, cloak pulled over your shoulders. Around you men cough, groan, murmur prayers. Horses shift, their tack clinking softly. Somewhere at the edge of camp, a dog barks once, then falls silent. You stare at the sky, sharp with stars, cold and indifferent. You wonder if men on the walls do the same, their eyes tracing the same constellations, their thoughts just as restless. Records suggest sieges were often decided not by strength of arms but by patience. Days of waiting, nights of hunger, months of attrition. You feel the truth of that pressing against you now, heavier than armor, heavier than stone. You close your eyes, but sleep comes shallow, broken. You dream of dust, of heat, of flies that will not leave. You wake to the same walls, the same waiting, unchanged. And you understand this is the siege. Not only assault, not only battle, but heat, noise, and waiting without end. The day begins with a sound that jolts you awake even before the light has fully broken over the camp. Trumpets cut through the morning air, not in their usual calls for drills or meals, but with a sharp, insistent rhythm that promises only one thing: attack. You push yourself upright, cloak falling from your shoulders, the chill of the dawn still clinging to the earth beneath you. Around you, brothers are already on their feet, pulling belts tight, lacing coifs, strapping shields across their arms. The fortress looms darker than ever, its towers catching the first slant of sun, its banners fluttering faintly in the breeze. Today is not a day of waiting. Today you will climb, strike, press your weight against stone and iron, and hope it is enough. You eat quickly, bread so hard it cracks in your mouth, washed down with wine, thin as water. The crust sticks in your throat, but there is no time to chew slowly. You adjust your hauberk, the links biting into your shoulders, and pull the surcoat tight. Your sword hangs at your hip, heavy, its familiar weight both comfort and burden. You touch the cross stitched into your cloak, rough beneath your fingers, and whisper a prayer that dissolves into the noise around you. The siege engines roll forward. The ram groans on its frame, oxen straining, ropes creaking. The siege tower lurches across the field, its timbers swaying, wheels sinking into mud. Men inside brace themselves, hands on ladders, breaths already shallow. Ladders are carried too, their wood rough, their rungs smoothed by hands that will soon grip them in desperation. The camp empties into the field, a tide of men and wood and iron pressing toward the fortress. The defenders answer quickly. Arrows arc from the battlements, dark lines against the pale morning. Stones crash down, smashing into earth, shattering shields, splintering ladders before they reach the walls. Pitch jars burst, flames licking where they strike, smoke rising thick and acrid. The fortress roars with noise, shouts, the clash of iron, the groan of wood under strain. You raise your shield, arrows thudding into its face, the shock rattling your arm. Your breath comes short, hot. Against the iron bars of your helm, you press forward, step by step, boots sinking into earth, churned by blood and mud. Around you, brothers do the same, their mantles flashing white and red before being swallowed by dust and smoke. The ram slams into the gate. The sound is a boom that shakes the ground, wood against wood, iron against oak. Dust showers down, stones quiver in their places. Again the ram swings. Again the gate shudders. The defenders pour boiling water, then pitch down onto the frame. Men scream, some stumbling back with cloaks aflame, others doused quickly with buckets of water. The air smells of burning wool, of resin, of sweat. The siege tower lurches closer. Arrows rattle against its sides, torches hurled to set it alight, but wet hides nailed over its frame keep the flames from catching. Inside, men brace ladders against the walls, waiting for the moment the bridge will fall onto the battlements. Their voices rise in prayers, steady or broken, blending into the thunder of wheels. You reach the base of the wall. The stone rises sheer above you, cool and damp even in the heat. You grip the ladder, wood rough under your gauntlets, and lift. The first men climb, shields raised overhead, arrows slamming into them, some sticking, some glancing away. One man falls, arrow through his neck, his body crashing onto the ground below. Another takes his place without pause, foot finding the same rung, hands gripping the same wood. You climb. The ladder shakes beneath you, jolting with every impact. Your shield presses heavy on your arm. Your sword slaps against your thigh. The air smells of pitch and sweat. Your breath sharp inside your helm. Above, defenders shout, their voices fierce, their arms lifting stones, spears, torches. A rock crashes down, splintering a rung below you. The ladder sways. Men shout, but it holds. You press upward. Step by step, muscles trembling, shoulders burning. An arrow strikes your shield, the impact numbing your arm, but you climb still. You hear the clash above, the clang of steel meeting steel, the grunt of men straining. At last you crest the wall. Your boot finds stone, your shield rises instinctively, and the world becomes chaos. Defenders press against you. Their faces close, eyes hard. Swords clash. Sparks leap. Shouts drown out thought. You thrust, block, step, your body moving faster than your mind. A spear glances off your mail, jolting your ribs, but you push forward, your own blade cutting the air. Around you the fight spreads. Men tumble from ladders, some cut down, some leaping, some dragged into the fray. The bridge of the siege tower crashes onto the battlements, its thud shaking the wall. More brothers surge across, shields up, voices raised. The wall becomes a storm of bodies, iron clashing, wood splintering, cries rising and falling. Time blurs. You lose track of minutes, of hours. There is only the press of men, the clang of steel, the sting of sweat in your eyes. Your arms ache, your breath rasps. Your vision narrows to the shield before you, the enemy in front of you. You stumble once, knees striking stone, but a brother's hand grips your arm, pulling you upright before a blade can fall. You nod, breathless, and strike again. And then, as suddenly as it began, the trumpet calls retreat. The sound cuts through the noise, sharp and clear. Orders are shouted. Men pull back, shields raised to cover one another as they descend ladders, as they stumble toward the siege tower. You press backward, each step heavy, shield angled against falling arrows. Your chest heaves, your body trembling, but you move. You reach the ground again, boots striking earth, lungs burning. Around you men stagger back, some wounded, some carrying others, some empty-eyed. The ram is pulled away, the tower creaks backward. The field is littered with broken ladders, shattered shields, fallen men. The fortress looms still, its walls scarred but standing, its defenders shouting victory from the battlements. You drop onto the ground, back against a wagon, shield slipping from your arm. Your breath rasps, your chest aches, your hands tremble, sweat drips down your face, soaking your coif, stinging your eyes. You close them for a moment, hearing only the echo of the trumpet, the cries of men, the boom of the ram. Night falls heavy, darker than before. Fires burn low in the camp, their smoke drifting upward. Supper comes, barley stew again, its taste muted by exhaustion. You eat slowly, barely tasting, your body too weary to protest. Around you, brothers sit silent, their eyes fixed on nothing, their hands still shaking. The fortress stands unbroken. The assault has failed. You lie down on your cloak, the ground harder than ever, the air cool against your skin. Sleep comes shallow, filled with dreams of ladders breaking, of stones falling, of walls that never yield. And when you wake, the fortress will still be there, waiting. Dawn is slow to arrive, as if even the sun hesitates to look upon the field. Its light creeps pale across the horizon, turning broken weapons into black silhouettes and pools of dried blood into dark stains. You wake stiff beneath your cloak, the damp earth pressing into your spine. For a long moment you lie still, hoping the world will fade back into night. But the fortress looms above, implacable as ever, its walls catching the first light as if nothing had happened at all. The air is filled with a heavy quiet. No trumpet sounds for assembly, no bell calls for prayer, only the shuffling of boots and the low murmur of men moving through camp. Voices hushed as if afraid to disturb the dead. Smoke from dying fires lingers low to the ground, carrying with it the acrid stench of burnt pitch. You rise slowly, legs aching, shoulders raw from straps that bit into them the day before. Around you, men move like shades. Cloaks are drawn tight, heads bowed, eyes hollow. Some kneel in prayer, lips moving without sound. Others sit in silence, hands gripping spoons that never rise to mouths. The weight of failure lies on every chest, heavier than armor. The battlefield spreads before you as you step beyond the wagons. Splintered ladders lie twisted, their rungs shattered by stones hurled from above. Arrows stand upright in the earth like a forest of reeds, their shafts quivering slightly in the morning wind. A shield lies face down, its cross scuffed into obscurity. Beside it, a gauntlet, the hand that wore it already taken away. The bodies remain, some sprawled flat, eyes open, faces pale in the early light. Others lie curled, arms around themselves as though sleep had caught them mid-motion. Cloaks are stained dark, mantles torn. Crows pick at edges of cloth, flapping upward when men approach but circling back the moment backs are turned. Their cries are harsh, greedy, unashamed. The wounded are gathered near the wagons. Drones drift into the air, low and constant. Some clutch bandages pressed too tight, blood seeping through linen. Others lie silent, eyes glassy, breaths shallow. A brother kneels beside one, whispering prayers as he dribbles water onto parched lips. The water spills more than it enters, the man too weak to swallow. His chest rises once, twice, then stills. The brother bows his head, traces a cross in the air, and moves to the next without pause. You kneel beside another, his face pale beneath a sheen of sweat. An arrow protrudes from his side, feathers red with blood. His hand gropes blindly until it finds yours. His grip is weak, trembling, but insistent. You press his palm gently, whispering a psalm half remembered. He does not answer, but his eyes soften, and for a moment you believe he hears. Records suggest surgeons in the order knew herbs and knives, yet here skill fails more often than it saves. The wound is too deep. His breath falters, his grip slackens. You lay his hand across his chest, folding it neatly, and rise. Graves are dug at the edge of the camp. Shovels bite into earth reluctantly. The soil too dry, too stubborn. The work is slow, each thrust of iron into ground, shaking weary arms. Sweat drips from brows, stinging eyes, dampening cloaks already stiff with dust. The pits are shallow, men are too few, too spent to go deeper. Bodies are lowered carefully, cloaks pulled over faces, hands folded, words are whispered quickly, prayers carried on dry throats. Soil falls back heavy, thudding against fabric, each sound final, dull, unforgiving. You take a spade, your hands blistered but steady, and join. Each stroke sends pain through your palms. each load of soil heavier than the last. Yet the rhythm steadies you. Dig, lift, throw, repeat. When at last the grave is covered, a wooden cross is hammered into the mound, plain and unadorned. You step back, wiping sweat from your brow, breath sharp in your chest. By midday the field is scarred but changed. Broken ladders are gathered into piles, splintered shields burned in small pyres. The smoke rises thin, curling upward, carrying with it the smell of pitch and pine. Arrows are collected, some snapped, some saved to be fired back. Horses limp, tended by grooms with hands as gentle as possible. One lies on its side, flank pierced by wood, eyes wide with pain. A boy kneels beside it, stroking its neck, whispering nonsense. The mercy blade flashes once. The boy turns away, shoulders shaking, tears falling silently into the dust. The midday meal is barley stew again, thicker than yesterday but no more welcome. You chew slowly, the taste ash in your mouth, your stomach tight with more than hunger. Around you, brothers, sit in silence, spoons rising and falling without thought. The reader's voice drifts across the camp, psalms steady but subdued. The words weave through the silence, soft as smoke, almost lost in the emptiness of the day. In the afternoon, repairs begin. Shields are patched, leather straps replaced, blades cleaned and oiled. You sit on a log, your sword across your lap. You run a cloth along its edge, oil glistening faintly, the smell of iron rising. The motions calm you, though each scratch on the blade speaks of yesterday's futility. Your shield bears fresh scars, wood gouged, leather torn. You bind it with new strips, pulling them tight, the knife biting clean through. Above, the fortress stands unchanged. Its stones glow faintly in the setting sun, its battlements lined with figures too distant to see clearly but undeniably present. Torches flicker as night approaches, small flames marking the outline of towers. Perhaps they bury their dead as you bury yours. Perhaps they celebrate. The truth is hidden, swallowed by stone. Evening paints the sky red, streaked with clouds that look like wounds. Fires burn low in the camp, their smoke curling lazily. Supper is passed in silence. You eat slowly, barley thick on your tongue, broth cooling before you finish. The reader's voice rises once more, quiet and steady, words flowing even as heads bow, eyes close. Night falls, heavy and cold. Dew settles into cloaks, dampening hair, seeping into earth. You lie on your back, staring at stars, sharp as glass. Around you, men shift in uneasy sleep, some murmuring prayers, some whimpering softly in dreams. Horses snort, wagons creak, a dog barks once before falling silent. The fortress glows faintly in the dark, torches burning along its walls like eyes never closing. You close your own, but the day clings, cries, smoke, soil falling heavy onto cloth. Sleep comes shallow, broken. You dream of ladders that splinter, of stones that fall, of walls that never yield. The battle is over, but the siege endures. Tomorrow the waiting will begin again. Heavier now, slower, endless. The decision comes not with trumpet or bell, but as a ripple of whispers. At first you hear it in fragments. Two brothers speaking low at the edge of camp. A sergeant passing instructions in a tone stripped of ceremony. Then the words become certain. The siege will not continue. Supplies have thinned, sickness creeps through the tents, engines burn to cinders, and the fortress still stands. When the order is spoken aloud, no cheer rises. The silence afterward is heavier than battle itself. Some men bow their heads and murmur prayers, voices hoarse. Others clench fists, staring at the unbroken walls with eyes narrowed by frustration. You feel it in your chest like a stone dropped into still water, the weight spreading outward, until even your limbs sag with the knowledge, all that sweat, all that blood, and the fortress endures. The camp shifts into a different rhythm. Wagons are loaded in grim silence. Wheels groan as barrels are rolled up planks. bundles of arrows stacked, sacks of grain tied closed, though they rattle almost empty. Siege towers too heavy to drag are condemned. You watch carpenters hammer wedges into their frames, then set torches to the base. Flames lick upward, hungry and bright. Wood crackling hides smoking. Smoke billows black into the morning sky, stinging your eyes, searing your throat. The smell of pitch and burning pine mingles with the bitter tang of defeat. You eat quickly before departure. A hunk of bread softened with watered wine, a wedge of cheese hard as wood. The crust tastes of dust, the wine thin and sour, but you chew steadily, forcing it down because the road will not forgive hunger. Your destrier paws the ground, nostrils flaring, as if impatient to be gone. You pat his neck, whispering nonsense, more to steady yourself than him. His hide is warm, his eyes restless, but he bends his head and accepts your hand. The column forms with mechanical precision. White mantles, dulled by smoke and dust, ripple faintly in the morning breeze. The red crosses are stained darker now, some nearly black, yet still they mark the unity of oath. The master rides to the front, his cloak heavy with dust, helm hanging from his saddle. He raises one hand, and without a word the column begins to move. Wheels creak, hooves strike, and the sound rolls across the valley like distant thunder. The fortress remains behind you, unbroken, its banners fluttering defiantly. You glance back only once, long enough to fix the sight in memory. The walls look smaller with distance, but no weaker. You turn forward again. The road opens and your horse shifts into its steady rhythm. Dust rises quickly under the hooves of hundreds. It clings to your lips, fills your throat, grinds between your teeth with every swallow. You cough, but the dust remains. The sun climbs higher, pressing heat onto mail, soaking your tunic until it clings to your back. Sweat drips into your eyes, stinging, blurring the horizon. You lower your head, reins tight, body swaying with the rhythm of the march. The wounded ride in wagons. Some groan with each rut, clutching their sides, their breath shallow. Others lie too still, faces pale, lips cracked, hands unmoving. A brother kneels among them, whispering psalms, his voice steady though his eyes glisten. The words drift into the air, half prayer, half lullaby. At midday the column halts near a stream. Horses drink greedily, muzzles dark with water, their breaths heavy. Men crouch in the shade of wagons, cloaks drawn close against flies. You chew bread slowly, dipping it into wine, the sourness sharper under the heat. A brother offers you a fig, shriveled but sweet, and you nod thanks. Its taste lingers, almost painfully good, a reminder that sweetness exists even in retreat. The march resumes. The road climbs hills, dips into valleys, winds between olive groves. Silver leaves shimmer in the heat, their shadows too thin to offer relief. The air smells faintly of resin and dust, a dry sweetness clinging to your throat. Your destrier stumbles once on a loose stone. You pat his neck, murmuring, urging him forward. He obeys though his flanks tremble with effort. In the afternoon clouds gather briefly, heavy and dark. The air thickens, the promise of rain hovering. A few drops fall, cool, sharp, startling against skin. Men lift their faces, mouths open, desperate. But the shower passes as quickly as it came, leaving only damp patches on cloaks, darker streaks on dust. The sun returns, hotter, harsher, dust rising thicker than before. The column stretches long, strung out across the valley. Voices rise faintly. A chant here, a murmur there, a cough swallowed quickly. Fatigue gnaws at every movement, yet the line does not break. Step after step, wheel after wheel, hoof after hoof, the road unwinds. Evening brings a halt in a broad field. Wagons circle, tents rise quickly, fires spark into life, horses are rubbed down, their coats dark with sweat, their eyes weary. You unbuckle your armor, piece by piece, setting each carefully at your side. The relief of weightlifting is sharp, but the ache it leaves behind is deeper still. Supper is barley stew again, thinner than before, stretched to fill too many bowls. You eat slowly, spoons scraping wood, the taste of smoke clinging. Around you, men sit silent, their eyes distant, spoons rising and falling without thought. A reader's voice drifts across the camp, psalms steady, the words soft and almost lost in the evening wind. Night falls heavy. Stars scatter cold above, sharp as glass. You lie on your cloak, the ground hard beneath, the air cool against your face. Around you men breathe in unison, horses shift softly, wagons creak as wood settles. The silence is thick, broken only by the cough of a brother, the murmur of a prayer, the bark of a distant dog. You close your eyes, but the fortress lingers still, its walls unbroken, its silence heavier than stone. Sleep comes shallow, filled with dreams of gates that never open, of ladders that always splinter, of roads that stretch forever. And tomorrow the march will continue. The march eventually ends, though it feels as though the road has no finish. One morning, after countless days of dust and sore muscles, the column turns through familiar gates. The sound of hooves striking cobble replaces the endless crunch of earth. The sight of whitewashed walls, of a chapel spire reaching into the sky, lifts a weight you had carried so long you almost forgot it was there. The fortress lies behind you, unbroken, but the order still lives, and duty resumes. No banners are unfurled to greet you, no crowds to celebrate. Instead, the rhythm of ordinary life rises again like a tide, swallowing the memory of siege. You dismount stiffly, handing your destrier to a groom. His small hands tug at the reins. His eyes flicker to the dust coating your cloak, to the dents in your shield. He says nothing, but the tilt of his head is reverence enough. You pat the horse's flank one last time, murmuring thanks, before turning toward the yard where brothers already dispersed to tasks. The bell rings, its tone steady, neither triumphant nor mournful. It calls you not to battle, but to chores. You feel its vibration in your chest, a reminder that vows are built on discipline, not victory. The day begins with the stables. You walk between stalls filled with the smell of hay, sweat, and dung. Horses shift, stamping, snorting softly. Their breaths puff in the cool morning air, steam rising like ghosts of the campaign just ended. You take a brush, its bristles stiff, and run it through your destrier's coat. Dust rises in clouds, coating your sleeves, filling your nose. The rhythm is soothing. Stroke, pause, stroke. Each pass clears grime. Each pull smooths hide. Your arms ache, but the task steadies your breath. Beside you, another brother cleans hooves, scraping carefully with a small iron pick. The horse shifts, threatening to kick, but the brother murmurs gently until it stills. These moments feel almost fragile, tenderness in a place built on iron. You wipe sweat from your brow, smile faintly despite yourself, and move on to fetch water. Buckets creak in your hands, water sloshes against wood, spilling onto your boots. The smell of damp earth rises sharp and clean. When the stables are done, the kitchens call. You enter to find the air thick with the smell of boiling barley and onions. Steam fogs the small windows, beads of water dripping down stone walls. Brothers move about in rhythm. One stirs a cauldron with a wooden paddle. Another kneads dough with fists that fall like hammers. You wash your hands in a basin, the water cold, and join them, cutting turnips into rough pieces, their earthy smell filling your nose. Your knife slides unevenly, your fingers stiff, but the task is simple, grounding. At midday the bell tolls again. You file into the refectory, long tables lined with bowls, the smell of food steady but plain. A psalm is sung before eating, voices blending, the sound rising like breath from a single body. You bow your head, murmur the final words, and eat slowly. The barley stew is thin but warm, bread crusts soak in watered wine, the meal filling enough to quiet the ache in your stomach. The silence of mealtime feels strange after the noise of battle, but welcome. After the meal, The armory awaits. You carry your shield, its leather scarred, its wood splintered. The room smells of oil and iron, of damp stone where swords rest in racks. You sit on a bench, laying the shield across your lap. With knife and thread, you stitch new leather over the torn parts, each pull tight, each knot firm. You run a whetstone along your blade, sparks faint in the dim light, the rasp steady and sure. Records suggest Templars were forbidden ornament, their gear plain, but maintenance mattered more than beauty. The work steadies your hands, reminds you of the vows you carry as surely as your sword. The afternoon drifts into smaller chores, buckets of water hauled to the cloister garden, weeds pulled from rows of herbs. A brother tends mint and sage, their sharp scents rising into the warm air. He shows you where to cut, his hands gentle, his voice low. You listen, scissors snipping, the simple task absorbing more than you expect. The herbs will flavour tomorrow's meals, or be pressed into poultices for wounds yet to come. Evening falls slowly. The sun dips low, light turning gold against the stone walls of the compound. You join the others in chapel. Candles flicker, their wax dripping, the smell of beeswax sweet. Voices rise in prayer, low and steady, weaving together like threads of cloth. You kneel, your knees pressing into the grooves worn by countless others before you. The chant settles into your bones, soft and sure, easing the tension that battle left behind. After prayers, you eat again. Bread, cheese, a little watered wine. The meal is plain, but the quiet hum of voices around the table is soothing. You swallow slowly, each bite less about hunger than about rhythm. Night comes at last. You return to the dormitory, its rafters creaking, its air smelling of wool and smoke. You stretch out on your straw mattress, the rough fabric scratching your skin, the sound of men settling around you a steady lull. The fortress still lingers in memory, its walls unbroken, its silence heavy, but here the rhythm of duty returns. Steady as breath, as familiar as prayer. You close your eyes. The day has been long, but not with battle. Chores fill the hours, small and ordinary, yet they carry the same weight as sword and shield. This too is the life of a knight. Service in silence, duty in the smallest motions, vows kept in every stroke of brush, every stitch of leather, every whispered psalm. Sleep comes deeper tonight, not broken by fire or trumpet, but softened by the quiet hum of order restored. The bell wakes you long before the sun. Its voice is not harsh, but insistent. A slow toll that rolls through the dormitory and shakes men from their straw beds. You open your eyes into darkness, the rafters above faintly visible by the flicker of a torch guttering at the far wall. Around you, brothers stir in silence, boots scraping, cloaks pulled tight against the lingering chill of night. You rise with them, pulling your mantle close, the red cross bright, even in shadow. Your feet move almost of their own accord, trained by repetition down the corridor, through the cold stone passage, into the chapel where the air smells of wax and old incense. Candles flicker in their iron holders, casting light that trembles across the carved faces of saints. The walls here are plain, as the rule demands, no gilded splendor, no jeweled altars, but the simplicity itself feels sharp, like the edge of a blade. You kneel with the others. The floor is hard beneath your knees, worn smooth by countless hours of prayer. Your breath joins the rhythm of voices rising around you. The chant begins low, humming, almost like the murmur of bees in a hive. Latin words flow in steady cadence, syllables smoothed by centuries, their meaning less important than their sound. The psalm rolls forward, and you let yourself sink into its tide, your thoughts dissolving into sound. When the chant ends, silence follows. Not empty silence, but silence alive with breathing, with shifting cloth, with the creak of wood beneath weight. A prayer is whispered by the chaplain, words about humility, about duty, about the cross stitched over every heart in this room. His voice is calm, steady, certain. It does not rise or fall, but flows like water poured from a jug. Then the reading begins. A brother steps forward, his voice soft but clear, words from scripture unrolling into the air. You follow as best you can, the rhythm of the Latin shaping itself into images, wilderness, sacrifice, endurance. Records suggest that the Templars heard such readings many times each day, their hours punctuated by scripture as much as by bells. You feel the truth of that rhythm, the way words carve time into manageable portions, anchoring you when the days themselves blur. After the reading, you stand, bow, and file out again into the cool pre-dawn. The stars are still sharp above, the horizon only just hinting at light. Your breath clouds faintly, vanishing into the dark, yet the sound of prayer clings to you, a warmth that no cloak provides. The day itself is structured by bells. At prime, when the sun finally breaks the horizon, you return to the chapel. The light through the narrow window paints a pale stripe across the floor, dust motes spinning in it like sparks. You kneel again, knees aching from repetition, and let the chant steady your breathing. The psalm is different, but the cadence the same, a rhythm that carries you forward like a march. Terce comes mid-morning. By now you have already worked in stables or armory, hands rough with labour, but the bell interrupts without apology. You set aside whatever tool you hold, wash your hands in cold water, and return. The chapel air smells stronger now of wax, the heat of candles softening their edges. Your voice joins the chant again, raspier from work, but no less steady. You notice the brother beside you has a cough, a low rasp that interrupts his words. He bows his head lower, hiding his face, but continues anyway. At sext, the midday prayer, the sun stands high, spilling gold through the window slit. The heat presses down, sweat prickles under your tunic. Yet you kneel again, the psalm rising, your lips shaping words half-whispered. Hunger gnaws, your stomach growls, but the rhythm steadies you. Duty comes before bread. Nuns follows in the afternoon. By now fatigue drags at your shoulders, and the chant feels heavier, slower, your eyes sting from smoke, your throat scratches with dust. But the psalm does not wait. You mouth the words, letting them carry you even when your voice falters. Vespers arrives with dusk. Candles flare brighter in the fading light, their flames dancing against stone. The chant is softer now, more weary, but no less binding. You feel the day fold itself closed around these words, as if nothing exists outside them. Compline closes the cycle. The chapel is darker, torches casting long shadows, the air heavy with incense burned sparingly, but enough to cling. Brothers kneel lower, voices hushed, some trembling with fatigue. The final prayers are for protection through the night, for rest of body and soul. You feel them settle over you like a cloak, a quiet that sinks into your bones. And sometimes, beyond even these hours, comes the vigil. Once or twice a week you wake again in the black of night, roused by the bell when sleep has barely begun. The dormitory groans with weary bodies, but you rise still. The chapel is cold, lit only by a handful of candles. The chant is almost a whisper, fragile against the silence, but perhaps stronger for it. You kneel, fighting the weight of your own eyelids, and whisper psalms into the dark. It is not comfort, but endurance. When the vigil ends, you return to your bed. The straw scratches your skin, your bones ache, your body begs for rest. Yet as you drift into uneasy sleep, the sound of prayer lingers woven into your breath. You understand that faith here is not in fire or thunder, but in repetition, kneeling when weary, chanting when hoarse, bowing when knees ache. It is not glory, it is discipline. And this too is the life of a Templar. The bell that calls you to meals has a different timbre than the one that summons you to chapel. Its strike is shorter, sharper, almost practical, lacking the solemn roll that signals prayer. It echoes across the cloister yard, bouncing off the stone walls blackened by smoke and polished by decades of passing mantles. When you hear it, your body responds almost before your mind does. Hunger is its own discipline, and it tugs you forward as surely as any command. You file into the refectory with the others. The procession silent, measured, cloaks brush against each other, boots scuff softly against flagstones. The hall itself is long and narrow, its rafters dark with soot. Plain wooden tables run its length, their surfaces scarred by knives and gouged by years of use. Benches flank them, sturdy but uneven, polished smooth by countless hours of elbows and knees pressing against their grain. Light enters through only a few narrow slits, beams catching dust that dances lazily in the air. The scent is unmistakable: boiled barley, onion, the faint musk of damp wool, and always beneath it all, the faint waxy sweetness of candles. You do not sit immediately. First comes the bow, then the sign of the cross traced neatly over the chest. The room stills completely, so quiet that you can hear the hiss of tallow candles dripping wax. Into that silence, a brother steps forward to the lectern at the far wall. He opens the great book with hands roughened by both labour and sword, and his voice rises steady, measured. He recites scripture, line after line, his eyes fixed not on the hall but on the page. His tone is calm, neither urgent nor languid, meant to accompany eating, not to pull focus from it. Bowls are passed, rough wooden vessels worn smooth at the rims. Today's portion is barley stew, thickened with beans and sharpened by garlic. Steam rises from the surface, carrying with it an earthy scent that fills the space between hunger and satisfaction. A spoon is pressed into your hand, carved from ash, its edge softened by years of use. You dip, lift, swallow. The stew is hot, plain, but it spreads warmth through your chest and quiets the gnaw of hunger. The bread follows, coarse and dark, the crust so firm it threatens to crack your teeth until you dip it into the broth to soften it. There is no talking, only the scrape of spoons against bowls, the rustle of cloaks, the slow rhythm of the reader's voice filling the air. Sometimes the words blur, slipping past your mind entirely, leaving only cadence. At other times a phrase lingers about wilderness, or patience, or endurance, and you feel it cling to your ribs like the stew itself. A brother across from you slips a fig into your hand, dried, wrinkled, sticky with sugar. You catch his eye briefly, nodding once. Nothing more. To speak would be to shatter the silence, but the gesture says enough. The sweetness bursts across your tongue, almost painful after so much plainness. It is not luxury, but kindness, and that is rarer still. Once a week fish appears, salted so heavily it burns your lips, the flesh tough but strangely welcome. On feast days the air itself smells different before you even enter the hall. The stew is thicker, meat added, cinnamon or pepper faint in the steam. The scent alone draws your stomach tighter, the anticipation sharpening every sense. The meals are no less silent, no less austere, but the richness lingers afterward like a memory you do not want to let go. On ordinary days, watered wine is passed along the benches. It is thin, closer to sour water than to the deep warmth of vineyards, but it carries the promise of safety, water that will not spoil, liquid that steadies you. You sip it slowly, the faint burn settling your stomach. The jug passes on, wood scraping wood as it is set down, lifted, set down again. The rule demands that silence holds. Still, life interrupts. A spoon falls once, clattering across the stone floor with a sound so loud it feels like thunder. All eyes lift for a heartbeat, then lower again, the moment swallowed by discipline. Another evening, a brother coughs through an entire psalm, his chest rattling. He bows his head lower, ashamed, but continues to eat, spoon steady despite the noise. Silence is fragile, but it is also resilient, always knitting itself back together. When bowls empty, hands fold together. The reader closes the book with a soft thump, his voice trailing away. A brief prayer is whispered, giving thanks for grain and labour, for sustenance enough to continue duty. Then benches scrape back in unison, the wooden groan echoing through the hall. That sound, oddly, feels like relief. It means hunger has been tended to. discipline reaffirmed. The refectory empties in the same order it filled. Cloaks sweep across stone, boots strike flagstones, doors creak open into the cloister once more. Outside, the air is cooler, the sky brighter or darker, depending on the meal. You breathe deeper there, your stomach heavy but your spirit steadier. Evening meals are the same, yet somehow softer. Candles glow lower then, shadows stretch longer. The stew is thinner, stretched from the day's leavings. But bread still passes, and wine still dampens its edge. The psalms sound gentler, the silence more weary than stern. You chew slower, letting the heaviness of the day soften in rhythm with the chant. And once, rarely, the feast transforms the hall. The meat's fat glistens, spices prickle your tongue, wine flows less watered, brothers' faces flush with warmth, shoulders relax, and even the reader's tone seems warmer. Yet no one speaks, no laughter fills the hall. Even in abundance, the silence endures, shaping everything into discipline. You understand, as you rise once more and step into the night air, that meals here are more than food. They are prayers in motion, silence embodied, discipline practiced with every spoon lifted, every crust softened, every psalm murmured through mouthfuls of barley. Hunger is not an enemy here, but a teacher, and satisfaction is never taken for granted. As you lie on your straw bed that night, cloak drawn close, you realize the day's meals have filled more than your belly. They have stitched your hours together, given form to time itself. The fortress may stand or fall, battles may be won or lost, but bread, barley, and psalms endure. This too is what it means to live as a Templar Knight. The bell that summons you this time is not the steady call of prayer or the brisk note for meals. It is a single strike, low and resonant, followed by silence. The sound carries across the yard into dormitories, into cloisters, into the corners where fatigue hides. It is the bell for the watch. You rise, pulling your cloak tighter against the cold. The night air meets you sharp and damp, smelling of stone and wet earth. The stars are clear above, scattered across a sky so wide it feels like an ocean you could drown in. Your breath clouds white before you, vanishing quickly, as if swallowed by the silence. Around you other brothers emerge, their mantles pale ghosts in the dark. No words pass, only nods, brief glances, the language of men too weary to waste syllables. At the armory door you collect your gear. Mail weighs heavily over your shoulders, iron biting cold against skin still warm from sleep. The sword hangs familiar at your side, its hilt pressing into your hip as you walk. A spear is pressed into your hand, its shaft smooth with use, its iron head glinting faintly in torchlight. You wrap your fingers around it, and the wood feels like an extension of your own bones. The gate creaks open, a sound loud enough to rattle your chest. You step out onto the wall walk, boots meeting stone worn smooth by centuries of feet. The surface is damp, slick in places where moss clings. The torches along the battlements flicker, their flames straining against the wind. Beyond them, darkness stretches unbroken. Fields fade into shadow, and the world becomes nothing but the soft whisper of grass in the wind. You walk your post, step after step, spear tapping lightly against stone, cloak brushing your legs. The rhythm steadies your breathing, fills the silence. Somewhere below, an owl calls, its cry long and low, answered faintly in the distance. You pause, listening, the sound eerie but comforting in its constancy. Voices drift from another section of wall, two brothers speaking low, their words too faint to carry. The murmur fades as you pass, leaving you again with the silence. Records suggest that discipline demanded silence during watch, but letters hint at whispered psalms, at prayers spoken into the dark. You mouth a verse under your breath, the words barely leaving your lips, more thought than sound. Your mind drifts as your feet continue. You remember the battlefield, the fortress looming, the walls that stood against every ladder. You remember the cries, the smoke, the splinter of wood. The silence now feels heavier for it. as though every absent sound carries memory. You glance into the dark fields, half expecting to see torches moving, banners fluttering, but the horizon remains still. The cold deepens as night turns. Your breath grows harsher, fingers stiffening around the spear. You stamp your boots softly, trying to force warmth into them. The stone beneath feels colder with every step, its dampness seeping into your bones. Your cloak flaps faintly in the wind, its edges snapping like sails. You pull it tighter, shoulders hunching, but the chill remains. At intervals, the bell strikes again, soft notes to mark the hours. Its sound carries through the dark, folding time into pieces you can hold. Between each strike, the minutes stretch long, endless. You count steps, breaths, stars overhead. The sky shifts, constellations sliding slowly west, their positions reminding you that time does move, even when it feels frozen. Once you hear movement, a rustle in the grass beyond the walls, faint but sharp in the stillness. Your body tenses, spear lowering, eyes straining. The torchlight does not reach that far, and the dark swallows detail. You hear it again, then nothing. A fox, perhaps, or something larger. You wait, breath shallow before moving again. Slower now, ears keen. The silence afterward feels deeper, a hollow left by sound. At the gate, you pause to warm your hands over a brazier. Its coals glow red, heat rising faintly. You hold your palms over it, the warmth biting as much as it soothes, returning life to stiff fingers. Smoke curls upward, stinging your eyes. A brother across the brazier nods at you, his face half lit, half shadow. Neither of you speaks. You part again without a word. The hours crawl. Fatigue presses heavy, eyelids drooping. Steps slower. You shake your head to stay awake. Blink hard, shift your spear from hand to hand. Sleep tempts with every pause, but duty holds stronger. You think of vows, of oaths spoken long ago, of crosses stitched onto cloaks. They bind you now more than stone or steel. At last, the horizon lightens faintly. A grey thread weaves into the black. Stars fading one by one. Birds stir, their calls faint at first, then louder. The air feels less sharp, though no warmer. You pause, watching the first hint of dawn. Your body aches, your feet are numb, but the sight steadies you. The bell tolls again, louder this time, its voice carrying across the yard. The watch ends. You return to the armory, setting down spear and helm, your hands trembling slightly with fatigue. You walk back into the dormitory, where straw beds wait, where warmth promises briefly before the next bell calls again. You lie down, cloak still wrapped around you, eyes closing instantly. The chill lingers in your bones, the silence in your ears, but sleep pulls you quickly, and the memory of the wall fades into darkness. Guard duty ends, but the discipline remains. The day begins, as so many do, with the bell. Its voice rolls through the stone corridors, summoning you not to battle, not to hardship, but to rhythm. You rise with the others, limbs heavy, shoulders stiff, yet already you know the day will be much like yesterday. Prayers, work, silence. Still within this sameness, the moments that linger are not always grand but quiet, gestures that pass almost unseen, yet bind the order more tightly than chainmail. At the stables, your destrier shifts under your hand, ears twitching, nostrils flaring. The brush moves through his coat, lifting dust, smoothing hide. A brother beside you notices the strap of your saddle frayed to threads. Without a word, he digs into his pouch, produces a strip of leather, and presses it into your palm. His eyes meet yours only briefly, but the message is clear. Take it, mend it, keep your beast safe. You nod once, the only answer needed, and continue brushing. Later, at the well, you heave up a bucket, its weight dragging against your shoulders. The rope burns your palms as water sloshes, spilling over the rim. The younger brother steps forward silently, takes the other handle, and together you carry it across the yard. Neither of you speaks, but the strain eases, halved by the presence of another hand. The water is poured into the trough, the horses nudge their muzzles eagerly, and the moment dissolves back into routine. At mealtime, the silence of the refectory weighs heavy, broken only by the scrape of spoons and the steady cadence of the reader's voice. Your bowl empties too quickly. The barley stew tonight is thin, stretched to cover too many mouths. You glance down, hunger still curling in your stomach. Across from you, a brother pushes half his bread toward you. He does not look up from his own bowl. The gesture is small, almost invisible, but it settles into your chest with warmth greater than food. You break the crust quietly, chew slowly, and feel the gnawing fade. After the meal, when prayers have ended, you return to the dormitory. The straw of your mattress scratches against your skin, but you are too tired to care. Then you hear a cough, sharp and ragged, from the far end of the hall. It continues, punctuated by wheezing breaths. Another brother rises from his bed, crosses the room, and places his water skin beside the coughing man's hand. He returns without acknowledgement, without a word, but the coughing softens. The dormitory returns to its rhythm of breath and silence. In the afternoon you labour in the armoury, sharpening your sword. The whetstone rasps against steel, sparks faint in the dim light. Your hand slips once, the blade biting shallow into your palm. Blood wells, bright against coal-used skin. Before you can rise, a brother is at your side, pressing a strip of cloth into your hand. He does not chastise, does not ask. He simply helps you bind the cut, pulling the knot firm before returning to his own bench. You flex your fingers, the sting dulled, the cloth already red. The sword gleams under your hand as you return to work. Evening finds you in the cloister garden. Rows of herbs line the path. Mint sharp, sage bitter, rosemary resinous. A brother tends them with gentle care, trimming leaves, brushing soil from roots. He notices your shadow fall across the bed, hands you a sprig of thyme without explanation. You crush it between your fingers, the scent sharp and clean, and tuck it into your pouch. Later, when the stew tastes thin, you will add it, and the small change will feel like feast. At night, watch, when the cold presses into your bones and the darkness stretches endless. You stumble briefly, your eyelids too heavy. The spear slips in your grasp. The brother beside you taps your arm with the butt of his own weapon, not harsh, just enough to wake you. His eyes meet yours in the torchlight. Calm but steady, a silent reminder you are not alone. The rhythm of your steps steadies again, two shadows moving in parallel along the wall. These acts are never recorded in chronicles. No scribe notes the sharing of bread, the tightening of a strap, the gift of a herb sprig. Letters hint at discipline, at vows, at rules, but rarely at kindness. Yet you feel their weight. They weave unseen threads between men who kneel side by side, fight side by side, lie down in death side by side. Without them, the order would be iron alone, strong but brittle. With them, it is tempered, able to bend and endure. As the day ends, the final prayers are sung in chapel. Candles flicker, shadows stretch long across stone, voices rise low, weaving together until no single voice can be heard, only one sound, steady, constant, soft as breath. You kneel, shoulders brushing those on either side, knees pressed into stone worn smooth. The words fall from your lips, not loud but steady, carried into the air like smoke. When the prayers close, you return to the dormitory. The straw mattress waits, rough and familiar, the cloak pulled over your shoulders. Around you, brothers settle in, their breathing slow, their motions weary. In the dark, you think not of battles lost or won, not of walls or rams or gates, but of the hand that pressed bread toward you, the strip of cloth wrapped around your palm, the nod by the brazier. These are the moments that hold the order together, the small, almost invisible acts of brotherhood. They do not blaze like fire, but they glow like embers, steady, enduring, warming the nights that might otherwise be too cold to bear. The bell tolls again, not for prayer or for a meal, but for gathering. Its sound is slower, heavier, as if each strike carries weight meant to press into your bones. You rise from your bench in the armory, leaving behind the half-mended strap, and follow the others toward the central hall. Boots scuff across the flagstones. Mantles whisper as men file in, the white wool dulled by dust and sweat. The red crosses stark in the dim light. The hall is plain, its walls bare stone, its ceiling low, the air faintly smelling of wax and iron. Torches gutter in their sconces, casting trembling shadows across the floor. Benches line the sides, and you take your place among brothers, shoulder brushing shoulder. Silence falls quickly, so complete that you hear the crackle of pitch on the torches, the faint drip of water from somewhere unseen. Then he enters. The master. He does not stride, he does not command the room with gestures. He simply walks, each step measured, his cloak trailing faintly behind him. His face is lined, his beard streaked with grey, his eyes clear but heavy with years. He climbs the small dais, turns, and for a moment simply looks at you all. His gaze lingers not on the whole but on individuals, on you, on the brother beside you, on the young sergeant down the line. It is as if he weighs each soul one by one. When he speaks, his voice is not loud, but it carries. The stone walls hold it, send it back to every ear. He begins not with orders, but with scripture, a psalm of endurance, of men who walk through wilderness with little but faith and each other. His words roll slowly, deliberate, each syllable shaped as carefully as a craftsman shaping wood. You feel the cadence settle into you, calming and binding. Then his tone shifts. He speaks of duty, how vows are not held in triumph alone but in silence, in patience, in discipline. Records suggest that the masters often reminded their men that victory was fleeting, but vows endured. He echoes that truth now. The fortress may still stand, battles may be lost, but the brotherhood remains unbroken if each man holds steady. He speaks of humility, that knights are not lords though they bear swords, that wealth is not theirs though it passes through their hands, that glory is not the aim, though songs may one day be sung. We are servants, he says, his voice steady, not of kings, not of gold, but of the vow. The words land like stones, heavy but sure. You shift slightly, feeling their weight press against your chest. Then comes the command itself, not a call to battle, not an order to march, but a directive to endure, to tend to horses with the same diligence as to swords, to sing psalms with the same discipline as to raise shields, to guard walls with the same vigilance as to charge ladders. Every act, he says, is service. Every breath you draw belongs first to God, second to your brother, last to yourself. He pauses, letting silence stretch, letting the words sink. You hear the shuffle of boots as men adjust on benches, the faint creak of wood. No one speaks. The hall itself seems to hold its breath. Then he steps down from the dais, moving among the rows. His eyes rest on faces, not with judgment, but with something deeper, recognition perhaps. When he passes you, his gaze lingers briefly. It is not praise, not censure, but a reminder. He sees you. He sees the dust on your mantle, the scar on your shield arm, the tiredness behind your eyes, and still he expects you to endure. When he finishes his walk, he raises his hand. The gesture is simple, but it binds the room. The final words are brief. Hold fast. Then he leaves, his cloak whispering behind him, footsteps fading into the stone corridor. For a moment silence holds. No one stirs. The torches hiss softly, smoke curling toward the rafters. Then benches scrape back in unison, the sound loud after so much quiet. You rise with the others, your legs stiff, your chest heavy with the echo of his words. As you step back into the cloister yard, the sky above glows with the last red of sunset. The air smells of smoke from the kitchen fires. of damp stone cooling in evening air. Brothers disperse to duties, some to stables, some to kitchens, some to prayer. You pause, watching the shadows lengthen across the flagstones. The master's words linger. Every act is service. You think of the fig pressed into your hand days ago, of the leather strap given at the stables, of the water shared at the well. Small gestures, unnoticed by most, but they are vows as much as ladders raised against walls. You feel their truth more clearly now, bound into your breath, into your bones. Night falls. The chapel bells call again, voices rising in prayer, soft against the dark. You kneel, lips shaping words you barely notice, yet you feel them settle like stone into the foundation of your soul. The master's command hums quietly beneath them, an echo you will carry into every hour that follows. You return to the dormitory, straw rustling under your cloak, the rafters creaking softly. Around you, brothers settle one by one, their breathing deepening, their forms blurring in shadow. You close your eyes, his words still burning faintly in your chest. Hold fast. And in the silence, you do. The days blur now, one folding into the next like pages in a book worn smooth by countless hands. Time has a rhythm here, carved not by victories or defeats, but by bells and psalms, by cloister walks and the scrape of wooden spoons against bowls. You wake when called, kneel when told, work when commanded. Each hour is bound by ritual, each action by vow. What once felt like the endless surge of battle, the dust, the roar, the chaos, has faded into something slower, steadier, almost hushed. The fortress you once approached with trembling breath grows hazier in memory. Its walls no longer loom sharp and unbroken in your mind. Instead, they soften into shadow, half dream, half recollection. What remains is not the clash of ladders against stone, nor the cries of men falling from battlements, but the silence that came after, the endurance that followed. That silence is the truer shape of your life now. You wake one morning not to the harsh blast of trumpet or the clang of armor, but to the soft toll of the chapel bell. The dormitory stirs quietly, brothers rising from straw beds, pulling cloaks around their shoulders, moving in near silence. The air smells faintly of smoke from dying embers, of wool damp with night air, of the slow, steady breathing of men who have lived this rhythm long enough for it to become their marrow. The chapel welcomes you again, as it always does. Its walls are plain, its floor worn by knees pressed into it day after day. Candles flicker in iron holders, their light bending and stretching as you kneel. The chant rises, low and steady, not triumphant but enduring. Your lips shape the words until they blur into sound alone. You no longer notice their meaning, only their cadence. They become like your breath, unthinking, constant, steady. When you leave the chapel, the first light of dawn spills across the cloister yard. Dew clings to the grass, catching fire in the morning sun. Birds stir in the rafters, their wings rustling faintly. You walk slowly across the flagstones, boots clicking softly, the sound echoing against stone. In the stillness, even the smallest noise feels amplified. The creak of a door, the cough of a brother, the distant bray of a mule. Life here is not loud, but it is unbroken. The day brings work. In the garden, herbs stand in careful rows, their scents sharp under the sun, mint fresh and bright, sage earthy, rosemary resinous. You trim them slowly, scissors clicking, the rhythm unhurried. Bees drift between blossoms, their buzzing low, steady, soothing. The air carries warmth and dust, but also the faint sweetness of green things growing. These herbs will find their way into meals, or into poultices for wounds yet to come. Each snip feels like a prayer in itself, quiet, deliberate, steady. At the stables, your destrier nudges your shoulder, muzzle warm, breath moist against your cheek. His eyes soften when you brush his coat, leaning into your hand with the trust built through years of labor and travel. Each stroke lifts dust, smooths his hide, restores the shine dulled by campaign. You feel his heart beating beneath your palm, strong, steady, a reminder of all the miles carried together. You whisper nonsense into his ear, soft words not in any prayer book, but binding nonetheless. The refectory at midday glows dimly, lights streaming through narrow windows, illuminating motes of dust suspended in the air. Bowls of barley stew steam faintly, spoons scrape in rhythm. The reader's voice hums steadily above all. You dip your bread into the broth, softening it before chewing slowly. Hunger eases, thirst quiets, and silence reigns. Even here, where the body is nourished, the soul is reminded, the act of eating is another kind of vow. In the armory, you oil your sword. The cloth glides along the blade, leaving it gleaming faintly in the dim light. The smell of iron and oil lingers on your fingers. You patch your shield again, leather strips pulled tight, knots tied firmly. Each act is small, but each act binds you. You are reminded that duty lives not only in battle, but in readiness, in care for the tools that shape life and death. Evening settles slowly. The sky bleeds into red and gold, clouds catching fire as the sun dips low. You walk the cloister, footsteps echoing softly, the rhythm steady. Voices rise in vespers from the chapel, blending with the calls of birds returning to nests. Candles glow brighter inside, shadows stretch long, and the smell of incense clings to your cloak as you kneel once more. The prayers close, and night deepens. Stars scatter across the sky. Cold and sharp, the air cools, brushing against your face as you return to the dormitory. Brothers file in quietly, their forms ghost-like in the dim light. You lie down on straw, cloak pulled over your shoulders. The rafters creak faintly, straw rustles softly, breaths deepen one by one. The fortress fades further in memory. The walls no longer press against your thoughts. What remains is the rhythm. Bells, psalms, work, meals, silence. You see now that this is the truest shape of your life. Not the siege, not the march, but the enduring cadence of vows lived out in ordinary hours. You close your eyes, and the world softens. The chapel candles dim, the stables fade, the cloister dissolves into shadow. Only breath remains, steady, slow, unbroken. The vow is not battle. The vow is this: to endure, to belong, to live each moment as service. And as sleep folds over you, you know this truth fully. Walls may stand or fall, battles may be won or lost, but the brotherhood endures, and so do you, carried by rhythm, by silence, by vows as constant as the stars above. You are safe now. The clamour of battle has faded. The dust of the road has settled. The fortress no longer looms. It drifts behind you like a dream half remembered. Its towers softened, its walls blurred. You no longer carry ladders against stone. You no longer hear the whistle of arrows or the groan of siege engines. All that remains is quiet. You feel the cloak warm around your shoulders, its weight gentle, its fabric familiar. Beneath you, the straw mattress shifts slightly, uneven but steady, cradling your body as you sink deeper into rest. The air is cool against your face, carrying the faint scent of smoke from distant embers. Each breath comes slower, deeper, easier. Around you, the rhythm of sleep settles. Brothers breathe softly, their chests rising and falling in unison, their presence a comfort more powerful than walls. The rafters above creak faintly, a reminder that you are sheltered. Outside, the night hums quietly. An owl in the distance, a breeze rustling leaves, nothing more. The world fades gently. First the sounds dissolve, softening into silence. Then the images blur. The chapel candles, the cloister shadows, the red cross on white wool. They drift away like mist at dawn. What remains is only stillness, steady and safe. You are held here. You are protected. You are at peace. The battles, the marches, the endless duties are behind you now. You drift in their wake, carried gently forward, no longer pressed by vows or stone. Sleep deeper. Let the rhythm of breath carry you further, softer, until even thought dissolves. You are safe now. That world fades behind you. Only rest remains. Sweet dreams.